Mission are not yet on the page like they were before, but I asked them to put it up here, so we're all kind of grounded on what we're going to do, and we'll see this again in a few minutes when we go through strategic plan. With that, we call roll. Leslie?
Yes. All right. Christie.
Here.
Hanley.
Here.
Lehrman.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Samersky.
Here.
Ingraham.
Here.
And then we have a new park board member. I'd like to introduce Eric Kowalski. So I'm taking roll, so you have to acknowledge that you're here.
Here.
He is a youth representative that was appointed by the council in November. And he is a senior at Minnetonka High School. So he'll be joining us for about a year. And do you want to say a few quick words?
Yeah, well, I'm pumped to be here, so it's nice to meet all of you. And I know we had that wonderful food beforehand, so I guess I already spoke a little bit about this, but I've done some volunteering with parks, some summer camps with children. I also tutor, and so I'm hoping to get more of an input on youth my age and then younger, and then hopefully bringing that to the council and to the park board for you guys. So
Great.
looking forward to working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any comments or changes? Otherwise, do I have a motion?
And just to note, Chair Ingraham, that we do have one addendum. And so just acknowledge that's part of the agenda. That was not originally in the original agenda.
I move that we accept the agenda with the addendum.
A second?
All right. Christie.
Yes.
Hanley.
Yes.
Lehrman.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Samersky.
Yes.
And Chair Ingraham.
Yes.
And just to note that this youth representative is not a voting member, so that's, I'm not ignoring him. I'm just following protocol.
We have two sets of minutes for approval. We do them independently. Any comments or corrections for the October 22nd meeting? Otherwise, do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the October 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Christie.
Yes.
Hanley.
Yes.
Lehrman.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Samersky.
Yes.
And Chair Ingraham.
Yes. And then on the November 5th, 2025 meeting minutes, any comments or corrections? Otherwise, do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 5th meeting.
I'll second.
All right. Christie.
Yes.
Hanley.
Yes.
Lehrman.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Samersky.
Yes.
And Chair Ingraham.
Yes. Moving on to item 5. Do we know if anyone is going to be calling in? I don't know. No one's here. So we
We do
have
not.
no citizens wishing to discuss items not on the agenda.
Nope.
And I believe under number 6, special matters, we have none.
We have none.
So tonight we can go straight to 7A, the post-plan overview.
Yes, and before I turn that over to Matt and Sarah, just to kind of give some background, as you recall at the last meeting, we talked about providing an overview of the park's open space and trail plan. So they're here to do that. This is informational only. Feel free to ask questions. There's nothing to vote on with this item. But I'll first turn it over to Sarah Westy, our Assistant Recreation Director, who hasn't been with us for a while. So thanks for coming.
I think I introduced myself when the new members first started. Then I went on medical leave, and now I'm back. So you'll typically get myself or Kelly from Recreation at each of the meetings. So one of us will be here. And I have a pretty thorough history with the post plan, so I'll kick this off. And like Leslie said, I'm just going to do an overview. It's a big document, but since we have so many new faces on the board, this is a good opportunity to review it. So what is the purpose of the plan? So it's essentially, it's a 15 to 20 year plan to guide the vision, goals, and implementation of our investments for our parks, open spaces, and trails. So it was done back in 2001, and then we did it 20 years later. So this document is here to guide you as you do large projects in the trail system, or in the park system. And our goal really is to provide a comprehensive, balanced, and sustainable park system to serve the needs of the entire community. So this gives you a little idea of the project timeline. This was over a year project. It was about 14 months. So we went from February of 2021 all the way to April of 2022 before it was approved. And I'll touch again on all these touch points, but the park board did see this many times, and so did the public. So a little bit more on the public engagement and feedback. It went on Minnetonka Matters, so if you haven't been on Minnetonka Matters, please do visit it. It has citywide projects, not just park and recreation and trail projects. So it's really the city's way of interacting with the public, getting feedback. There's different tools there. So we used a survey tool, mapping tool, and then we put all the drafts on there for review, and so we could take input that way. And on Minnetonka Matters, we had over 2,600 visits during that time period. And then we had 689 people engaged, so they interacted with one of those tools during the process. We also did in-person engagement. We went to the farmers market, we went to Shady Oak Beach, we went to Park Adventures, which is a youth program, the senior center, and Night to Unite. And those in-person, you can see some of the pictures, there was vision boards, and people gave feedback on those vision boards, and there were different ways to interact with the public. So we wanted to hit a variety of age groups, as you can see there, different demographics. And in the listening sessions, I should say that we worked with Damon and Farber on this project. They came and did some listening sessions or workshops at the Alamon Center and Treehouse Hope. So one is a mosque and one is teen-oriented. And then you can see the park board saw this, some form of the post plan, and gave feedback 7 times. So it was very thoroughly vetted, and we kind of brought it back in pieces because it was such a big project. So you can see here's just another overview of when it came to the park board. And so instead of bringing the whole thing as a draft, we brought it section by section. And then when it was good enough to go to the public, we would bring the draft to the public and bring it back to the park board, so on and so forth. And then it was finally approved by park board April 6th of 2022, and then on to the council for approval, and it was approved on April 25th, 2022. So what's in the plan? There's an executive summary, an introduction, trends, existing conditions of our current park system. We established a vision, including a mission statement and guiding principles. The system plans our goals and initiatives for those guiding principles, and then an implementation plan. So kind of talk through each of those sections. So again, what's the post plan? It's a high-level planning document for staff and park board to help guide you for the next 15 to 20 years. There's guiding principles, recommendations, priorities, and tools. We want it to, it's meant to align with future investments with community needs, and it also complements other city plans, such as the NRMP, the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the Trail Improvement Plan. So staff and the consultants made sure that they complemented each other. So the consultants went through all of these other plans when they went into plan for the post plan. So it does help guide short and long-term decision making and investments. So what did the trends show us? Trends overview are kind of fun. What's happening in the field? This was a couple of years ago already, which is hard to believe. So there's an increasing demand for informal recreation. And remember, this is coming off of COVID. This is 2021, 2022. You'll see that kind of halfway down. Changes caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Lots of people were in the parks. Lots of people were using the trails. There was a lot of interest for expand the trail system. We want to be outside. We want to be in our parks. So if you think of the timeline, as I was reviewing this again, I was like, oh yeah, 2021, we're just coming off of COVID. So people wanted to be out in the parks, and they were. We should be resilient to climate change when we're planning for the future. We have changing demographics here in Minnetonka. There's a desire to be more connected to the land. Our planning should support our parks, open space, and trails support economic development. So people want to live near parks. It's good for business. It's good for people moving to our city. There's a focus on health and well-being. And there's an interest in specialized facilities and non-traditional sports. As we see, if you look in Lone Lake, we've got specialized pickleball courts and we've got mountain biking trails there. So those are kind of trends. And then the next section talks about existing conditions. This is hard to see on your left. It just lists like how many playgrounds and how many water fountains and that kind of thing. What's in our current trail system or our current park system. So in 20 years, when we look back at this, those lists will probably change quite a bit. The middle graphic shows that 71% of Minnetonka residents live within a 10-minute walk of a park, which is kind of a national statistics that cities follow. And you can see it's in smaller print that 55% is the national average, so we're pretty well above that. And then the circles are showing a few of the areas where we could use more parks. They're not as there's some areas there that could use parks. Opus, up in the northeast corner, or northwest corner. And then on the right, it just kind of shows the system at a glance. Did you have a question?
I did have a question. There's a circle with no white space in it. In the middle, so by Junction Park, Excelsior Boulevard, and 494.
Yeah.
And I was confused by that because it seemed like almost anywhere you were in there, you were 10 minutes away from something.
That's a good question. I don't remember exactly why that one was put there. If there was a specific reason, or if they made a mistake on that one, the consultant.
Or maybe there's just a very small spot of white.
Yeah, or maybe there's a walking challenge with the 494 in there.
Oh, that
I
could
can't
be.
remember exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
And one of these
interstate.
has a distinction of, and maybe this is not accurate here, but one of these has a distinction between parks and neighborhood parks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, that might be that too.
Yeah, I think the general national one is within a park, and it doesn't
Yeah.
say pocket park, mini park,
Yeah.
community park.
So it could be the one by the water tower on
Tower Park.
Tower Park. The mini
Minnetonka.
Minnetonka.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but we also, I mean, it's broken down. You've got multiple of these charts. That's neighborhood,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
so it's not.
I guess
And then
since
the
we,
overlays.
I guess since we paused here too, I was curious, is this based on actual space or residences? Because I look at some of those spots and I view them as being also heavy wetland areas.
Yeah, I do think it's geographic.
It's more geographic,
Yeah.
okay, because some of them,
The one on the left has a lot of marsh.
yeah, the one on the left has got a
Yeah.
lot of marsh, and the one on the right, upper right, my recollection is it's got a fair amount of stuff too. I don't know about the top, but
Well, Dave, you should have brought this up 3 years ago. I'm
Huh?
kidding. All right, so and then on the right-hand side, just again, kind of a glance at what we currently have. We're pretty fortunate to have, over 50 parks, over 100 miles of trails, 24 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents, which far exceeds the national average of 14 acres. So in general, we've got a lot of park space to work with. Then it talks a little bit about changing demographics. We looked into that and included it in the plan. These are just statistics of showing Minnetonka will grow, it will age, and become more racially and ethnically diverse in the coming years. Our population will grow by about 8,000 in the next 20 years. So we're seeing that in the Opus area, lots of booming, lots of multi-family housing as we look ahead to plan parks. Over 90% of population growth in Minnetonka is expected to be people of color, which I find interesting. And Minnetonka residents age 60 to 75 are expected to increase by 40% in the next 10 years. So we do need to keep our seniors. We know that this is an aging community. So, and we've got a lot of senior participants in our programs in our parks.
Right on.
A little bit, so this is kind of what we heard when we went out and talked to people and heard from the community. So what do you want to see? What new additional things do you want things to do in the parks? People like the idea of a year-round swimming facility, rock climbing or bouldering in parks, more nature programming, nature-based play areas. You can see some kind of visuals that got people thinking of those. Flexible spaces for special event programming. A skateboarding park, so we're looking at that now, upgrading that. Upgrade playgrounds to make them more accessible. A Ninja Warrior type playground, which is very popular. Like Golden Valley has one that's very popular. More pickleball courts. You guys will hear those over the coming years as we work on tennis courts. People want pickleball, but they're challenging to put in. Bicycle playground or a pump track. Programming for providing an off-leash dog park. So that was popular. Enhanced trail conditions and connections, to parks and open spaces. We hear that citywide all the time. More trails, more trails. More natural surface trails, boardwalks, and wetlands. So kind of the highest priority issues, and these are just kind of bigger themes on the right-hand side, not specific amenities. New and improved recreational amenities, rediscovering the creek, connecting to nature, people like iconic parks, gathering in community building spaces, high-quality natural areas, environmental sustainability and resiliency, and then connections to our parks and trails.
Can you give an example of iconic parks?
Well, I think more like Ridgedale Commons, and as we look at Opus, something that's different and something that's community-centered in the middle of housing units, I think. And I think maybe a lot of our parks look the same up until Ridgedale Commons. They're all very beautiful in nature, and so I think people like photo ops. This might have been from young people,
Instagram parks?
Yeah, what was that?
Instagram parks?
Yeah, I mean, right, the Bean in Chicago. I mean, we're not Chicago, but things like that where people know what you're talking about when you say the park.
I recall the ideas on the left were kind of written in order of the frequency we got the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you remember too?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I haven't,
It was always,
it's probably all in
probably
here, and
shouldn't
I
be
haven't.
shocking that swimming facility was first, the one with the biggest dollar sign.
Yeah.
But I can remember it was kind of in order.
Yeah, and if you look at, people were reacting to some visuals too. So they like when they see a big swimming pool. The price tag, maybe not. The reality sometimes doesn't match the want, but yeah.
Bouldering, rock
does-
climbing,
Yep.
very high.
Does the idea that people can swim at the marsh, does that
Well, so the
meet
marsh
that?
came after this, and so we as a city,
Williston.
yeah, well, Williston has a pool, the marsh has a pool. And prior to this,
I
we were
forgot
we were short on pools for our, so that kind of changes things, We got the marsh after the post plan, and we have more sufficient pool space now. So keep that in mind, yeah.
Is the post plan used for funding purposes as well, like from the Met Council, or not so much?
In terms of grant funding, we do lean into it quite a bit. When we apply for recreational or park-related grants, we say we went through this post-planning process. They're often asking for us to be able to check
So
that
it's-
box.
Yeah.
Not a requirement, it's just
It's
leverage.
a big plus. It's a huge plus.
If we can show all the community engagement and the need and the desire, that it's kind of a backup document to all of that, yeah. All right, so we'll work into a little bit more of the meat. I'm probably not going to read every goal in here, but I just want you to see how it's laid out. So like I said, there's a mission for the Parks Open Space and Trail Plan to be leading and providing a welcoming, comprehensive, and balanced system of high-quality parks, natural areas, trails, and programs for all to enjoy. So a high-level document for you to guide you guys as you nail down into some of these smaller these decisions. So there's 5 guiding principles, and I'm just going to move on because they're easier to read here. First being environmental sustainability and resiliency. Again, you've got goals from negative impacts to waterways to promoting sustainable maintenance practices. Then connections to parks and trails. We want to have safe and convenient access. So really, how do you get people there? People want to socially gather. Provide people an opportunity to connect with nature, which was very important, and then access neighboring communities. Community health and wellness. Make sure that that our parks support public health and wellness for all park users. We have healthy experiences that are accessible, enjoyable, and relatable to all park users, promote health and wellness through education and programming. And then also, we're always looking for ways to strengthen relationships with partners and look at different ways to do things and improve overall health and wellness. Next is equity and inclusion, and here we're going to develop park programs and facilities that fit the needs of the community through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Encourage recreation participation by all park users, regardless of race, age, gender, and ability. Expand access to parks and build and repair parks in underserved communities or areas of the city. Engage community members meaningfully in the design and planning of parks to ensure that parks and park programming reflect our community values and priorities. And then next is excellence and innovation. Quite a few goals here, a few of them. Support year-round recreation by improving access to outdoor winter programming, expand marketing and awareness. We're kind of doing that with our new signage at Purgatory. So, ways that we can be better at signing and marketing, model sustainable practices, create new park master plans. So that's a big one. So this is your high-level guide. And then one of the big things that comes out of here, a goal is creating new park master plans. And so that's kind of where you guys can come in and dig in and make, some concise decisions about those plans. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt for the implementation part, and then we can answer questions at the end.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Park Board, Chair Ingraham. I came on to the city right at the tail end of this process, so it was sort of interesting for some of my first meetings here to be reviewing the earliest drafts of this document and be poring over the results of the survey. And it was really interesting, both as a resident of the city and then coming on as a staff member, to really dive in. So since my time here, I've been taking the lead on a lot of the implementation of this particular post plan. So really the implementation component of the post plan is really about identifying priorities and initiatives and moving our park system in the future where appropriate. It doesn't mean we're forcing change where we don't think we need it. We want to provide guidance for the park facilities themselves. The implementation certainly involves identifying the costs of these potential improvements, which can be significant at times, but certainly worth it. A lot of my job is identifying potential funding sources, so we talked briefly about grants, but certainly working with our available finances at the city in terms of our capital improvement plan program and other resources in terms of our internal budgets. And then we want to identify ways that we can measure progress. Are we doing what's right for the park system? Are our ongoing park master plans reaching out to the community in a way where we really get a sense of how people are using the park system? Are we providing the recreational opportunities that folks are looking for? So in the post plan towards the end, a document component that I certainly look at a lot, this is the priority initiatives table. So these are grouped into the several categories: facilities, plans and studies, programming and events, communications and marketing, and operations and maintenance. And you'll see each one of these lines has a priority: high, medium, low, or ongoing. There's some notes about ways that they'll be tackled through other efforts. So a lot of these will, you'll see in that notes column, say identify through the park planning process. And then high level, $2021 of overall costs. These are often consultancy fees if there's planning or studies involved. Whoops, wrong way. So some of the past and ongoing efforts. So I've taken on a variety of master plans and studies so far at the city. We're working to accomplish several priority initiatives that touch on a lot of the priorities through this master planning process. So things such as, this doesn't include them all, but incorporating new picnic features or gathering spaces, including park shelters. Boardwalks through wetlands was identified in the post plan, and we're trying to tackle that with some of the park planning. A formal trail improvement. This is about the longevity of our trails themselves, the surfacing, the accessibility of those. We're always evaluating park safety to make sure folks feel welcome in our park system. Some of the specific plans and studies that we've undertaken, this initial skate park feasibility study, which identified Glen Lake Park as the best location for a potential skate park in the city. The citywide off-leash dog strategy, which happened around this time last year. Glen Lake Park master planning is just about to kick off here. I know I've been teasing it for a while, but it's about to get going. Skate park would go in that particular park. Purgatory Park master plan has been completed for a few years now. Big Willow Park plan, the draft is going to be coming to you folks on the park board relatively soon here. And then Cullen Nature Preserve, the master plan has been presented. That's a very exciting document that we're looking to roll out in the next year or 2 years. So some of the next steps involve budgeting to accomplish these priorities. So that can be tricky, but we have a variety of purses to pull from. The capital improvement plan are goals and projects that we present to the City Council for specific budgeting. Upcoming ones include the Red Barn site that's associated with the Purgatory Park Master Plan. We're going to look at that site, figure out how we can incorporate some of the post-plan needs in terms of public gathering space or other opportunities that might be met on that particular site. The Cullen Nature Preserve, we realize we don't quite have enough funding budgeted at this point for all the improvements that the Cullen Master Plan laid out. So we're looking at additional capital improvement plan dollars proposed to get that master plan underway and open that park to the public. A previous CIP page referenced Shady Oak Beach improvements. We're constantly investing in the Burwell House and Minnetonka Mills Park. We have our ongoing park investment plan. That's replacement of playgrounds and general park improvements. That's sort of an operational budget. So we use these existing operational division budgets, these pools of money that we have. We implement through service contracts and we hire consultants as necessary to do that work. Ongoing things include park and trail signage, so some new off-leash dog signs just up in Purgatory, so we're using these operational budgets to do that work. Ongoing trail enhancements, as I mentioned, erosion, resurfacing as necessary, repairing erosion on our trails. We've been ongoing tennis court pickleball assessments, so a variety of parks have come to the park board over the last 2 years or so where we're looking at potential for pickleball on the court. So these are sort of day-to-day things that we're needing to make decisions on versus the larger plans and studies. So a lot of things going on at this point. So really it's about turning these plans and studies into accomplishments in the park system. We've been doing, my first phase of my career at the city has been a lot of plans and studies, and I'm really looking forward to implementing a lot of these things. It's time to really get rolling. But the post plan really represents overall vision of what are our key goals. To be able to look back on that document and say, oh, we're checking a lot of the boxes on these various efforts is really exciting. And to just have this document on my shelf to be able to refer to and remind myself what we're doing these for is really just been wonderfully valuable throughout my time at the city. So excited to continue the effort that Sarah and the team had kicked off with this post plan, and the park board really, provided all the insight necessary to what I think create a very modern, very innovative document. I've looked at a lot of post plans from other cities that aren't quite as modern or innovative or comprehensive as ours is. So I'm certainly very proud of our document, and excited to take any comments or questions that I'd have from you folks.
Anybody have yeah?
Thank you. Is at some point, does the post plan get updated? Is it a living document like like some of the other park plans we've been working on, or is it more of a point in time?
It's more of a point in time. So ideally we would redo a version of this in 15 years or so now. It's supposed to be a 15 to 20 year living document. And really the to-dos that come out of it end up being the living portion of this document. So as we look at master planning for our individual parks or go down that list of other priority initiatives, that's the life of this document living on.
Jennifer?
Good that you picked up on that. Like for master planning, as we started a year ago with the dog parks, or at least when the three of us had started on the committee, are the master plans intended to also have a little bit of longevity between, you know, staff turnover, council turnover, board member turn, just to kind of set that baseline for expectations.
Yes, the master plans, certainly the realistic nature of them is we can't do all the improvements right away. So our master plan lays out phasing. So things we could potentially do right away, the high priority stuff, some new signage, some new erosion fixes, versus longer term things like a bigger parking lot that we would need to individually budget for those particular efforts. So the master plans are really meant to roll out over several years. It's just unrealistic for us to be able to do all the park improvements. So we want to make those documents modern enough that we can get ahead of park needs in the future as best as possible, and then even 5, 7, 8 years, 10 years from now, be able to say, the Big Willow Master Plan was adopted or approved by the Park Board back in 2025, 26. There's still a lot in there that we can refer to and say this is how we're justifying whatever park need is next on the list to do.
So intended to be for every 10 years or so.
They just end up taking a lot of time and energy to create the documents. So we want to make sure that they're robust and flexible enough to guide us and justify some of these expenses we need to make.
Thank you.
Just for the newer park board members, the version that they shared with us for the meeting is basically like the executive summary of the document. There's a 150-page full document that my friend Caleb here has printed and tabbed.
Via Matt.
So, like, the park board should be familiar with the 150-page version. Not memorized, but familiar. But we don't expect, you know, the whole community to be motivated. But it's good bedtime reading, and there's really great stuff. And I think this is a cool way to go through it. A few years later, it just like sense check how we've progressed, and it was a bit affirming that we did some really good work. So thank you for taking the time.
Other questions? Caleb?
So I've read how the priorities were determined. It's written. But I'm curious, you know, there was a ton of work on community input. And you know, there's a great bar graph, I think it's on page 88. And it tells you where all that input came from, right, by the colors. So it's awesome. Was it the senior center? Was it the survey? Was it at the farmer's market that we got this input? The treehouse, Shady Oak, Night to Unite. It's fantastic. So that was critical, right, to get that community input. But then, of course, it also says prioritization was based on availability of resources, alignment with natural resource, master plan and trail improvement plan, the city council, and park board priorities. So what can sometimes happen is community input can get relegated quite far at times down the list when, you know, money comes in, right? Like the pool, right? Or a bouldering project,
Yep.
right? So I'm just curious if there's any sense that you can give us how to what degree did public interest from this extensive community outreach remain like top level for prioritizing what we see in Table 5, high priorities, no priority, medium, etc. So is there any way to speak to that? Because I know it may be difficult. There's a lot of factors. And so I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
My day-to-day world here at the city is often responding to what the public thinks about our upcoming projects, the things that we're doing or not doing. A lot of the work we end up doing is referring directly to what the public's interested in doing. I think we're very earnestly interested in making sure that we're investing in the park system the way that the public is wanting. You know, how those priorities ultimately got sorted, that was in the sausage making of the post plan itself. but every investment that we're making, we need to be able to say had significant interest, or be able to clearly explain why we're unable to do things, financial or impacts to natural resources, or whatever that decision-making process needs to be. I just saw preliminary survey results to the Big Willow Master Plan, and just today I got them. So pouring over these survey results and the comments that people give. 90% of them are really great and useful and insightful, and some are, you know, a mixed bag or pie in the sky type wishes. So we need to be able to sort out and be respectful of people's opinions, but ultimately the rubber has to hit the road at some point. We need to make some decisions, and the to-do list needs to be crafted in a way that we can actually check some boxes. So I think we take the results of the surveys very seriously. Can we do everything that folks are asking for? No, unfortunately not. Or for the better, sometimes not.
And certainly not usually on a time frame people like to think about, because things take a while to get
Things
funded.
move slow. Yeah, things move, unfortunately, pretty slow.
Well, and to Ann's point about a living document, like this is a great example. Again, if you haven't studied page 88, do it. It's awesome. So I'm just going to try to show you pictorially, right? So back in 2021, here's where off-leash dog park landed on like the bar graph priority. Here, I want you to be able to see it.
I have it pulled up. So.
Yeah, okay. But then within a year or year and a half, it was like a special team, and it was being worked on, and it was basically up to here, right, in terms of activity, of city leaders, of staff time, of so we clearly have evidence of things fluxing as the park board or the city council or the staff or the community say, this is going crazy, or this needs to be addressed, right?
Yep.
So that's good news, because it allows us to say, well, what's new? What else can we do? How should we reevaluate based on ongoing feedback from the community or from staff or from new leaders that get elected, to the city?
On that one example, I would say that off-leash dog park is remaining as high as it is on that graph. The issue we've had is Purgatory existed as an off-leash area, and all of the angst and effort over the last year and a half isn't a new dog park area. It's addressing the issues around the current use of our Purgatory Park. I mean, I think, would you say that's fair? Because we're still not very far along on off-leash dog park.
Yes, I think the master planning of Purgatory Park, which was our first park master plan we ended up tackling, brought that off-leash dog issue way to the top.
Right.
Because of the use of Purgatory Park.
Yeah.
So, but if you just went on like, look how low this is. We got to do other stuff, right? But thankfully, people were flexible.
Yeah.
I
And
think
thankfully, we
that's
continue to do community outreach. So I
Yes.
feel like
Yep.
you're getting,
Right.
every year, you're continuing to get a pulse on what's new and
and I think that's the nature of this process, that I'm coming through and presenting these master plans and counting on everybody to say, what aren't we doing that could be brought up, or are we spending too much time and effort on this when it's losing popularity, whatever next sport comes up.
Right, and
part of
that's
the
kind of why I
process.
asked about the master plan, having that continuity so it's not changing at the whims of changing council members or
Yep.
or board. It's trying to get a concise and contiguous direction forward, with also taking into consideration the changes. With it being written in COVID, we were in a very different mindset that we didn't think we'd ever be in, and now we're out of it. And so now we're in a different one than we probably were before COVID as well. So it's the balance and being flexible to accommodate new without doing a totally 180 different degree direction is kind of how I see it. And there's always the balance between and trade-offs of the priorities, trying to categorize them and move forward and not get stuck in limbo and talk, a lot of talk. Be nice to do some action and start spending money fiscally responsible way. I'm done with my little speech.
No, that's good.
And I think you need to keep in mind that these are for the entire system. So they were saying, yeah, I want to see that
Yeah.
in the city. And then when you get to a certain park and say, okay, make a decision about this specific amenity, things change pretty quick. But this is a good saying, okay, we would like this in the city. Where does it fit? You're going to do that when you master plan, and then make the hard decisions with the neighbors and get everybody's buy-in.
That's good insight. Because, for instance, people want more pickleball, but when we ask, do you want it
In
in
your
the park
backyard.
by your house? People are less.
Yep, NIMBY, yeah.
Or if you ask the tennis players
Yes, exactly.
as well, we might have a different opinion.
My favorite tennis court is going to get changed? No, thank you. Yes.
Or adding that on. Finding the happy medium and the trade-off.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? Otherwise, I've got one. Going back to your implementation page, or you have this one. You have in the real deck. There's multiple pages. But kind of going to the comment earlier is clearly the post plan is robust, and you wouldn't do that except very infrequently. But how often do we go back and look at these priorities within the implementation plan and go, because that seems like something you could do and kind of go, well, let's reevaluate, what's a higher, medium, or low based on what's changed.
Just simply being tasked with getting this presentation together for you guys tonight has been really helpful for me to review this. I think we should bake into our master planning process what of this are we accomplishing as we look at our various parks. Because there's a lot of things that we're accomplishing that I think don't neatly fit into one of these buckets that we can certainly be checking the box on, and then that would easily indicate which ones are we not accomplishing or could do better on.
Okay.
And maybe put it into an addendum or some kind of document so that those of us who don't remember every detail that we talk about in the meetings, we can go back and look.
Absolutely. Yep.
And as long as we're talking about addendums and stuff, for me, it's really helpful to see actually on the document footer or header when it was written,
Sure.
just because then I have some sense of, is this from
A long time ago?
a long time ago
Yeah.
or just a year ago? So, like the Opus plan, which I had never run into before, was interesting, but I don't know how old it is. So we can talk about that later.
I think it ties well into the measurements. Here's where our vision was, here's what we were thinking. Now we're getting into the details. Are we following that, or are we straying from that, and why?
Yep.
So what's the process by which if someone or someone on the park board wanted to push for a change in priority on an item, when or how would that happen? Just I'm curious.
I would say there could be a couple of ways. If there's a particular item that seems to be like it should be a priority, it can be brought up at a meeting, and
Okay.
if there's consensus, we can certainly look at changing how it is listed in the post plan. But another option is we could bring back the implementation plan as its own thing, as an action item, which you'll be looking at your 2026 work plan for next year, and just revisit it. And
Revisit,
take a,
okay.
take a look at the implementation. Where are we at? And is this
Inventory.
Okay.
Yep, is this the are these still the priorities we want to see? And do we want, or does the park board want to change anything? So it could be an action item for next year is to revisit.
Okay.
In the Natural Resources Master Plan, we actually have it built in that every 5 years we're looking at or revisiting the priorities.
Okay.
And that's primarily priorities for parks where we're doing habitat restoration work. But there is sort of a time frame for when we look at and re-examine what the priorities are. So I don't know that we baked that in specifically to the post plan, but this was adopted in 2022. So, it's probably due just to have a look at the
Yeah, I think
plan.
that would be
Things change
prudent.
And it's just a guide. Those priorities are a guide.
Yeah.
They're not,
Sure.
we have to do the high right now and then medium low.
Yeah.
You can certainly say in your work plan, let's work on this year, and if it's something we can do and there's budget for it,
Yep.
work on it.
Great.
They don't really get serious until we budget them. Until we're writing those CIP pages and we're saying, hey,
Yeah.
council, we need.
Money
A lot
matters.
of this is reviewed, I mean, when we go through the CIP process, it's what's in here.
Yes.
You'll see it, yeah.
You'll see it that way.
Great. Any other questions or comments at all?
Oh, it was helpful to go through this.
Yeah,
And
this is,
I'll go back and read the whole thing.
it is impressive, I think. It's just interesting how much is there.
It's well written. It's interesting to pop in and out of. Yeah, it's a great document.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very comprehensive.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to 7B, the Park Board Strategic Plan and Work Plan for 2026.
It should be up there. Thank you, Chair Ingraham and Park Board members. So as you recall from the last meeting, you first took a look at the strategic plan and a proposed 2026 work plan and had some comments. We walked through the sections and you had some comments which we tried to incorporate into a next version of the plan. And so the red that you see are proposed changes to what was initially brought to you in November. Last time we went through each section, so I don't feel a need to do that again. But you'll see just in the mission, we added a word, added a couple words under the goal 1 for conserving natural resources. And then we did have a new strategy related to engaging other city commissions. It was in goal 3, but what I heard was we should move it to goal 4, which I agree with, so that's what I did. So with that, I think I'll just turn it over to you to see if there's any comments or suggestions or recommendations. And this is something that hopefully you are able to approve tonight, along with the work plan that I'll go over in a minute. If not, we did talk about the ability to bring it in January if necessary. Hopefully that's not the case, but that could happen if needed.
Jennifer.
I just want to say nice job. I did get a chance to look at that before tonight, and my comments were included, and I thought you did a nice job capturing them, and I appreciate having that, the protect components in. I don't think it hurts anything by doing that, and even if it could be considered redundant by some experts, I think it's very clear and plain language for the public, so thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Yeah?
In goal 3, strategy 4, I was confused by this because at the last meeting, we were reminded that our mission is parks, not recreation. And so I wondered if, I think it's important the city does this, but I don't know that it's a park board thing.
We did talk about programs in terms of programs that are
She's talking
happening
about
in
this.
parks.
Okay.
So we do programming in parks. So we've got some that are coming up. So and you guys see reports on
I think that's
athletic
what she's talking
fields and Sugar
True,
Beach.
yes.
So we consider that programming.
Okay.
So we do. The city does a lot of programs, and Sarah and her group does.
And I think of programming as that comes in the booklet and you register for it. And
Oh, okay.
But some of those are in parks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I withdraw my comment.
Other comments, questions, discussion?
Overall, I think it looks great. I have one little nitpick question. I didn't want to bring it up, but it's the mission, so I want it to be right. The place that equitable was put in doesn't make sense to me. That second bullet in the mission should it be, usually the word equitable and inclusive are together. Promote equitable and inclusive quality recreation opportunities. It reads funny.
So it could be promote quality, equitable, and inclusive recreation.
How about high quality equitable and inclusion? Because, quality by itself is.
It's quality recreation opportunities. Is that what we're trying to say? I'd probably put equitable and inclusive
Together.
first. Put those two words together instead of breaking them
So
apart.
quality, equitable, and inclusive, or just equitable and inclusive?
Quality, we want quality.
Quality can be there maybe before the word recreation.
So promote
So,
I think that's-
equitable and inclusive quality recreation.
Great.
Yeah, I like equity in there first, and so I
Okay.
agree. I think the quality, I like your high quality before recreation.
So equitable, inclusive, high-quality recreation.
Thank you. That would be great.
So equitable, inclusive, high-quality recreation
Yes.
opportunities. Do you get that?
Got it. All right.
It does.
Thanks for making it better.
Anything else at all? There was some, I'll just throw out there was some stuff sent, some input sent to the park board. Anybody have any, from Nate, anybody have any thoughts on those, or we're all good?
I think we kind of captured a lot of that.
Yeah, I
think
did
there
too,
were,
but-
there was some more nuances, but I felt it was more detailed and specific than what a work plan would
Okay,
be part of it. That was my take on when I read it after our meeting. So I felt like, in a nutshell, that we captured a lot of it.
Yeah.
But some of it was very detailed. That would be more of an implementation than goals and strategies.
And I also thought that the intention of the comments were met.
Good,
by-
okay. I did too. I just want to be respectful of the input we got, that everyone's comfortable with that. Great, well, if everyone else feels good about it all, do we have a motion to approve this separate from the work plan?
Well, technically, it's one item, which,
Okay, so we'll keep going.
moving forward, we might want to split these out as two separate
And
items.
then
but-
one other question, when it goes to the council, will they see, because they saw the last one, will they see the red marks? So they see so they know how we've made it stronger, or do they just?
So
react?
once you approve it, the red will go to.
All black.
All black,
Okay,
yes.
that's fine. I was just curious.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a question actually before
Yeah.
we move on. But what was in goal one of the strategic? What is it? The strategic plan. What was the context for to protect and conserve? But the addition of the word protect. Why did we specifically
That's
add that
Jennifer's
word?
question.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. I think that it might be a little bit of my background and education from national parks to regional. That prior to my arrival, they felt that the conserve was including protection, and in the National Forest Service it is. They have a multiple use, but in the national park it's a little bit different. And you have wilderness areas that are protection. And my train of thought that seemed to be supportive by my fellow board members was to include the concept of protecting as well as conserving. So conserving means, we're going to conserve it. Protect means we're going to save it and we're going to keep it this way for future generations. And so to me, there's a distinction between conserving something and protecting something. That I think one of the values of the citizens in Minnetonka is the protection for future generations, some of our assets. And so I just really appreciate the support that we brought the word protect. So it might be a little bit redundant with conserve, but it highlights it because I think it's so important and is part of the character of Minnetonka.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was going to say, well, I like the change because I feel like conserving is more of like saving something, and then protecting is like actively shielding it from degradation and other factors. So I agree.
Thank you.
Spot on. Thanks for giving me another soapbox to get on.
Of course.
Soapbox night.
Okay, so I will go to the work plan.
Yes, and so the work plan was presented to you again in November, and then the items in red are items that we're proposing to change. So just a couple of additions. For the first quarter, we added the Cullen Nature Preserve, Master Plan, and Glen Lake Skate Park as additional items that would be presented to the DEI Commission for input from their perspectives.
Just the skate park, or is, I think of Glen Lake as being a little more than,
It should be Glen
sorry,
Lake
I'm
Park. Yeah.
picking.
Correct.
Yeah, the intent was Glen Lake Park as a whole. Okay, so I can take that word out. So in quarter 2, we're adding the Glen Lake Park plan review to the work plan. No changes in quarter 3, and then in quarter 4, we accidentally had the 2025. That should be there because in quarter 4 you'll be reviewing the 2026.
Yeah.
So we actually we don't need to refer to dates in any of those operational reviews. One item, and I'll bring it up, I did speak to Chair Ingraham about this, as far as there was an interest in having this reflect the dog park information that's being presented to the park or the council in June. There was an interest on the park board to have a review of that. I did speak to the city manager, and at this point, the council has not given direction for the park board to review that. So unless that changes, I did take it off, or actually I did not put that in. But just a reminder that Chair Ingraham and I will present this to the council. It is in early February now, so they certainly could choose to have the park board re-engage on that, and if they do, then we can certainly add that to the work plan.
The other item around dogs was also an update on the work around additional off-leash areas.
Yes, and so we recognize again the idea that master planning will certainly be a time to address dog parks. It's still a little up in the air in terms of a citywide dog strategy. The council had indicated, they want to review what happens in Purgatory, how that works, do some evaluation before really moving forward wholesale throughout the city. So at this point, we are leaving it off at the direction of the city manager unless the council asks the park board to re-engage right now.
Thanks for getting that clarity. That's very helpful. Yep. Taking a step back, the work plan is, heavy on park activities, really light on natural resource stuff. Is that okay? Is there anything else from a natural resource perspective that you want feedback on next year?
Well, we have habitat restoration and maintenance plans that will be coming. So that's quarter 4. There's Lone Lake and Tower Hill.
Oh, did I miss it? Quarter 4.
Quarter 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
first
I
item
missed
in
that.
quarter
Yep.
4.
So I saw the one in Q1. I didn't see the thing in Q4.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be providing the Natural Resource Division update and the outreach engagement plan. We talk about restoration as well there. So that's, in terms of restoration work that we're doing, we're sort of in the point where we're just really implementing on the ground operational based on the plans that have already happened. So there's not a whole lot, other than these restoration plans for individual parks, there's not a whole lot to present on unless the park board would like to see or have more information brought to you.
I just wanted to make sure that,
I wouldn't mind.
considered that.
I'd love to hear little,
Updates?
elevator speeches about what got finished the last month or two.
Yeah.
Like in that informational section that we do?
Yeah, and we certainly, I think we've done that. Right now, it's obviously the time of year that we're a little slow.
Yeah, sure.
And we also like to recognize all of the work that the volunteers are doing in the parks, which we try to do during that natural resources update. But yeah, we can certainly bring more, updates as we're kicking off new projects, restoration projects.
It's spending a bunch of time and a bunch of money on it, and might as well toot our horns. So.
Yep.
Caleb.
So I appreciated going through the post because in our last meeting, I was ignorant of the post in detail. So that was really helpful, and in advance of this meeting because I wanted to be able to talk more about previous kind of needs assessments and identification of areas for betterment in our park and trail system, to then have a chance to do my homework. And so Leslie and Matt met with me, and so I was able to start that work ahead of time, and I wanted to share that with you so you could hear some of my ideas that go into the work plan, and then we can we can do the process where you guys shoot it down or say, yeah, sounds good. I will say, and I mentioned this during my time with Leslie and Matt, but some ideas that I'm thinking of do not fall into like a quarter. They are something we would be thinking about working on throughout the year. So we might have segments of each or every other meeting where we're coming back to a work plan item. So I apologize that I don't have it like, okay, this quarter and this quarter, because it probably isn't some of these things may not fit from like start to end, start to finish within a quarter. But with regards to the post, figure 45, which is on page 105, I don't know if we have the ability to bring this stuff up, is an overlay of is a great overlay of some of the things we already looked at, and it's titled Areas of Need. And so this is an overlay of where are city parks, where's the walk greater than 10 minutes. The blue dotted outline is a high minority population. Then we have the same circles that indicate to us what our areas of need are. The shading that we see on page 105 is like the density, population density. And so my first recommendation is that we...
What page number was that?
105.
105. Yay! There it is. Sweet. So what I would like us to consider is, I would say, elevating the priority of the areas circled that are not already being worked on. Okay, so one of the areas circled is Opus. If I'm looking at the map right.
Yep.
So we know that's happening. We're going to talk about it, right? We're going to get an update in like a few minutes. So that's fantastic. But then we got 1, 2, 3 other areas. And so I would like for us to say, look, we identified through the post, 3-4 years ago, areas of inequity in our city's park plan and open spaces. And so let's kind of let's get on it a bit. And so I would like to add that to our add that as an elevated priority that is part of our work plan. And so what that might look like is some of the same things we're already doing with Opus, where we would say, okay, can we start doing some planning with consultants or micro neighborhood feedback innovations, like what do we want, what do these specific communities circled want, or maybe we can even find that by I don't know if there's a way with data that we got collected from the post to get more granular, like by zip code or something, because people don't always want to give you all the info. They might just be anonymously answering, but just a thought there. So that was my first idea, was let's really work on this hard for next year, because we've known about it for 3 or 4 years, and Opus is coming along, but we still have 3 other areas that we could say, let's take care of this issue and do it in a big way, or a prioritized way. So I don't know if you want me to go through like a few other ideas, or if we want to talk about that first, and then what do you guys think? Or Chair, what would you like?
Oh, well, Jennifer, go ahead.
I hear what you're saying. I know Minneapolis was brought up, and I think Minnetonka is probably polar opposite of the Minneapolis, where some areas were neglected for decades, if not hundreds of years. When I look at our map, I see a big dispersion of parks throughout the city, and I think that this plan in particular shows what a good job Minnetonka has done. It doesn't mean we can't do better. I think from a timing and a time frame, it feels ambitious to go after. I feel like we already have a lot on our plate. Let me start there. That I think we can clip some of these things off, but maybe not all in 1 year. And so, looking at, Opus is I would call Opus in 2026. Maybe we look at, my eyesight's not as good to
Right
kind of
here.
reference the other areas, but maybe in 2027 we look at another area that appears to be unrepresented, then to have it be a whole item, because that feels like a really big task to add to our existing work plan, which is working towards the goals and the higher values. So I hear what you're saying. I know all the cutting edge and the micro parks and a lot of what Met Council has been pushing for the last 5 years with diversity and inclusion items. I feel like we're going to capture a lot of that in the master planning process that we do, and that we have to do it systematically than to focus on just one area, because I think we have to have a realistic approach. So that's my 2 cents.
So my question was, do we want to talk about this issue by itself before I move on to other ideas?
Well,
I
we
have?
might as well talk right now, I guess, since before we
Okay.
get to. I'd like to tack on, I think, I kind of agree with Jennifer, but I'd also, this is one of the charts I always puzzled over during the development. I guess my first thing was, what is the issue in these areas? Because I don't know what the issues would be. An example would be, you mentioned Opus. I mean, clearly we know there's high-density housing in the Opus area, and we know that is a need, and there's a plan that's being worked for that. If I go to the lower left corner, there's the blue dot area which surrounds Purgatory Park. It's heavy marsh wetlands in the park, and along Highway 101, whatever they call the street, that there is a couple lower income apartments that are right back up to Purgatory and across from Covington. So I'm not sure kind of what the need is or how many people are there, because the only housing I can think of that would fit that qualification are 2 or 3 buildings on 101 adjacent to Clear Springs School. And if I go to the top section right along Highway 394, that's heavy commercial and apartments, and it's adjacent to 2 park areas. So it would be like, what do we need to do there? Since it's adjacent to 2 park areas, it's got 394 running right through the middle of it, and a lot of, it used to be car dealers, now it's other stuff. But so it'd be, to your point, Caleb, drilling down more, is there an actual issue, or is it just the way the map gets drawn? The right-hand big bubble has 2 blue spaces. One surrounds the high school, which looks like it's the high school, not housing. And the one right adjacent to it, south of Cedar Lake Road, is apartments. And I can understand that that's probably got some income opportunities, except it's apartments and wetlands. So I'm not sure what we can do programming or building-wise in the wetlands right behind the apartments. So it'd be better understanding is how real is this issue on this map. That would be the first thing I'd want to start with.
Yeah, and we wouldn't know until we actually said,
Yeah.
as part of our work plan, let's learn more
Drill in a little bit.
about
Yeah.
what we could actually do to fix these 3 areas of need that have been known about
If,
for 3 to 4 years.
if there is an area of need.
Well,
and
it
what
was
is
identified as an area. of
It's
need.
identified as an area of need, I think, because there's lower income housing in those areas. I'm guessing. I'm only guessing because I'm looking at, again, the bottom left-hand square is all wetlands, Purgatory Park, and then I think it's 3 buildings along 101. Does that sound about right, Leslie?
Yeah,
And not a
I
10-minute walk.
think, and Sarah, correct me if I'm
And you
wrong,
can't get to a park in
I think that's
Well,
what this
you can.
represents is where you have
They're
an
right across from
intersection
Covington.
between
I think
high
so.
minority populations and a more than 10-minute walk to a park. And so and I think that's all this shows, is my understanding. It's not about,
population
Two,
density.
And
2 or
population
3.
density, yep.
2 or 3 of the
and
green, orange.
it's not about, not having the right amenities or a number of trails. It's just about walking to a nearby parkland to access. Is that
Or
correct,
city
Sarah?
parks. It's 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
Green city parks,
Right.
1. Orange walk to park greater than 10 minutes, 2. Or 3, high minority population. Because we have high minority populations up in the north that have a city park very close, so they're not an area of need. So it's 2 or 3 of those above. The difference between this figure and figures earlier in the document is that this one overlays high minority population to help us see even better, like the implications of an area of need and why there's an equity focus. That's why it's in this section.
Okay.
And
I think one of my concerns, and it's because I've been doing land acquisition, public land acquisitions for 20 years, is that and that's just probably because it's my perspective, is it seems like it's when you look at what would we do to solve it, we're talking about land acquisitions, perhaps, and that becomes a large funding. There's not going to be anyone in the state or very close to me who's going to be more of an advocate for acquisitions, since that's what I did. But I think I'm just wondering if that's in the scope of what we're looking at with our work plan.
First is just understanding the problem, right?
Yeah.
We don't even know if
But
it's
if the
truly a
first
problem
one-
or if it was just a consultant circle
Absolutely.
based on a couple of,
But if
a
it's-
couple of factoids,
If
right?
it's 2 of them, and when one is proximity, and so the only way to reduce that proximity would be to acquire more land.
Yes, but like the high school might, and all of its amenities,
Does
the
it
fields
apply?
might apply to the
Yeah.
bottom
Right.
left, right?
Agreed.
There's
Right.
so much
Yeah.
there
Right.
that is just like a park.
And
Right.
they
It
talk
can be
about
used
using
like
schools.
a park.
Yeah.
So I guess my perspective is I do love that one of the areas is prioritized. That we haven't ignored it completely, and
1 out of
that's
4.
an active 1 out of 4. Great.
Yes.
I would love to learn about what the real problem is in the 3. Oh, I'm on.
yeah, you are.
Did it fall? Oh, it's like on my arm.
The wrist.
I'd love to learn if it's a true problem in those 3 circles, and not until you understand the problem, can you come up with it if we need to prioritize those areas for solutions. So, if we can make time in the next 12 months, great. If we need to focus on Opus for the next 12 months, I'm okay with that too, and then do it the year after.
One thing that this map helps us do is the city gets approached a couple times a year of somebody either wanting to sell land, donate land, things like that. So having this, if somebody says, oh yeah, I own this parcel here, and I either want to sell it at a discount to the city or donate it, we can look at this and say, oh yeah, that's in this spot of high need. So it's nothing we can plan for, but it's something that if they do approach us, we have something to look at and say, yeah, oh yeah, this is in that area, and can be a driving factor to say, yeah, we should really look at this more closely.
I agree, and I would say the other category that happens is more potential when we're in a recession. We'll probably get more people approaching us with that interest, and so using this map for a closer look is it's sometimes a reactive approach than necessarily proactive.
Yeah, if we don't know what we don't know, and we just make assumptions that these areas are real, and I don't know that they're not, but I guess I trust this product. I mean, we could look at any other figure and say, well, this isn't real, or how do we even know this is real? So I have to trust the work product and the publication and the approval by the park board and the approval by the city council that it is real and it's accurate and it reflects a real need. But maybe we'll find that we're wrong. But I do feel that for the people who live in these circled areas, they shouldn't be neglected anymore. So let's elevate some process, some aspect of investigation into how we could do a better job for the folks in the circled areas. If we find the trueness of Figure 45 is in fact borne out.
Would you be okay? I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I totally support it. Would you be okay if we looked at it more of a global perspective of one a year rather than all of them this year?
I guess I would be open to that, but I do feel, I mean, I just feel for the people in this part of our city. And
I think
the
we
people
need
in
more information before we prioritize which one's next.
which one to even do.
We need a
and
little
then
more
and then
information.
also,
And I don't know
like,
which
nobody
one's
likes to
next,
hear
like
wait,
you're saying.
especially people who are already under-resourced in their own life, in their own, day-to-day life. And so I just have a greater sense of urgency, I guess. And so that's why I'm hesitant to say, let's just do one at a time per year. I think Opus is on the train. We're on the train, so that one I'm not even going to count as needing, that's planned. So it'd be one of these three or all of these three. And I guess I'm thinking too, if Matt or Leslie can help me think, well, is there some aspect of doing all three at the same time with a single consultant firm or something that is easier, or is more fluid, or hearing presentations? If we're kind of hearing from people who've done this as part of our learning, would that be too much, or would that be helpful because it's a singular focus? That's why we're doing it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have one thing to say.
Go ahead.
So one thing I'm thinking of is I've been hearing about, we don't really know what the problem is, and maybe getting a better understanding of these specific areas. I mean, we have a lot of existing information we could compile and bring to the park board to get a better handle on land use, green space, connectivity with trails, just to kind of take those circles and blow them up and really show you what the population looks like. We have a
Yes.
lot of existing data
Just
that we
the
can bring.
nature of the land. That's where I see these orange blobs, and I think, what is that? And yes, there's wetlands, there's rail corridors. So just better understanding what is represented in those blobs. What's the land use in those areas? What
Topography.
opportunities may or may not exist?
And if a bunch of this is the apartments in what used to be a gravel pit, I think.
Which one, over there by the high school?
Yeah, over by the high school that I'm
Southeast.
pointing at.
Northeast.
Oh, by the Hopkins High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's possible that maybe there's trails that the developer has put in. I mean, I don't know if it's just, I don't think it's just parking lots and apartments. I think that there's some green space. So it'd be helpful to.
We're whispering about a bus tour. But I'm so glad to hear that you, Leslie, you're thinking we don't even need to go consultant route. We have a ton of data that we could just drill down and present and dish about.
As you're
together,
talking, I'm clicking
right?
on parcels and seeing
Yeah.
who owns what and what some obvious obstacles may be or not, or where opportunities lie.
And this is showing the city-owned and managed land, not necessarily our interconnectedness with
It'd be
the
easy for us
schools
to map
and
those
To
things.
overlay
the
school stuff.
schools and
Yeah.
the park
Schools,
district
yeah.
and the
True,
other. So this is just looking at city-owned, not necessarily
The parks, the schools.
broader.
And a rec,
Open space.
like a
Ownership.
apartment complex, tennis court,
Oh,
or
sure.
playground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That would be overlaid
That would
in
be
this more
helpful.
detailed look.
That'd be
So I guess that's what I would love to see us do in an elevated fashion. Elevated in terms of our work plan to say, yeah, let's do this. Maybe we say one per quarter, but maybe again it's easier for you guys to do it like all together, or something. But just teach us more so we can better know what the real need is, and then tackle it. And we may find that only one of them really needs like CIP money for a build out, or two, two of them, or none of them. But then at least we know about it. We can actually then go back as a park board or as staff to these communities and say, I don't know if you guys were worried about this or heard about this, but we looked into it more, and here's what we're going to do, or here's what we found, and so we're reassured, or we know we're going to elevate this to do better, or try to get funding, or
Yeah, I would suggest, we'll have to kind of craft what we call that. It's a deep dive, we want to call it something better than that, but just looking at the work plan, I would suggest that happening either probably in Q2, just because that's a little bit light, and then the CIP will be coming, the whole budgeting process is starting, so just in case it had some influence on that. But that would be my proposal, is to add something to Q2.
So that would be something like provide evaluation of the areas
Areas
of
of
need
need.
identified in the post plan.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
figure 45.
Sure.
Further analysis.
Yep.
We only have 2 meetings because we don't meet in April.
We don't meet in April, correct.
And I don't, if it's going to be Matt taking this on as on top of everything else, then we just need to be a little respectful that you don't, this isn't the straw that breaks the camel's back.
A lot of this is property, and our community development and planning folks, I'm already
They can pull that for you.
signing them up for some of this.
Okay, yeah.
To Leslie's point, we
Delegate.
have a lot of this information.
Delegate.
It's a mapping, inventory, and analysis
Yeah.
in my mind.
It would be helpful to know more granular about,
Yeah.
like if I look at the bottom left corner, the blue area, not the circle, but where are those properties that are high minority? Is that the blue, right? The blue thing? Because I do think there are just a few properties right along 101, so it's just a function of however their mapping works for segments. And some of them I know these pretty well, and I can look at it. I look at them and I go, okay, like the one by the high school. I'm not too sure how that area even has residents in a sense. The bulk of that spot is high school grounds.
Yeah, and the
I mean, it
wetland
shows up on the
behind
map.
it.
The high school shows up, this football field and stuff. So I mean, it'd be helpful to know what's actually there. If it's just a figment of how the stuff gets worked.
Also
And we
wondering-
know the upper left-hand corner, the orange at the very top is all commercial. No one lives there.
There's some, I used to live up there, so there are some residential.
Okay.
But we had access, and my kids found plenty of opportunities to
Mess
recreate.
around.
unstructured.
Mess around,
play. Even if it might have been a retaining pond, but I didn't say that out loud.
Yeah.
So I wonder too, though, if we shouldn't have some sort of like either asterisks or something that might be like, okay, if in Q2 we're kind of doing it's like learning, investigating, then it's more like a, if needed, Q3, we're doing a, like, strategizing, implementing for space 1 or space 2 by learning about options for identified space and need capabilities. Because again, that would be a new bit of learning for me, depending on what we really are talking about in terms of these different types of open spaces and/or parks, tiny, big, just grass, whatever. So I don't know how we frame that, or if that would just be kind of like, well, we decide in real time as we're going through the year, hey, let's add this to the next meeting because we did find Circle 2 needs, it has real needs.
No.
I don't know. What do you Does that sound good?
I like the latter.
Okay.
This work plan is not set in stone. We kind of add stuff as needed, as the energy provides throughout the year. So I like option 2. If we want to add it after we review the deep dive, great.
And I would build on that too, I think, as staff informational, and further analysis of the land use for recreational opportunity in addition to
Sure.
county amenities, county
City,
sorry.
it's okay.
State.
So do I need to do anything like formal in terms of motions?
Oh, no, I mean, was there
I think
more?
it sounds like people are okay with that.
Okay.
Don't you-
There's anything else that, I'll put it to you if you
We're
want
sort
to
of informal how we
talk
do
about
these things,
anything
so-
more. Otherwise, ultimately, we need to get to a motion to approve,
The
and
work plan.
it can be a motion to approve with the changes that we discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need
And
to
I have
try to
more
do that?
ideas, so I'm not.
No, I know that, but on this one, do you want to try, do you need to draft a little comment for this so we can approve it tonight, or?
Or you can approve it with in the motion, you can approve and just state it, adding in Q2.
Okay,
You don't have to have the exact wording, and we will add it.
okay. So think about how you want that worded. When we get to it.
Should we do it like
Now?
each thing?
No, I would do
How many
one
things do you
motion
have?
for the item
Yeah.
that
I have two
includes the
Okay.
addition of in Q2 this and
Let's
maybe
go to the
something
next
else.
I did a lot of work. So
That's
I
good.
wanted to
That-
spend
that's
time
good.
talking about the work I did.
Let's go to
good.
the next
I
one.
apologize if it's going to be another half an
No,
hour.
that's fine.
No,
Go to the
we're
next one
just-
I'm
then.
trying
Just-
to be generative
Yeah.
and iterative for the sake of this board.
And I was just trying to understand, whether we do need to chunk it or whether we
Okay.
just lay it on
Yeah.
us.
What's the next one?
So the next one is if you guys if up there we're able to go to page 122, I'm gonna direct or focus in on goal 3 in 122 on page 122. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, so goal 3, it's hard for me to read it, but maybe my eyes are bad. Anyway, it says expand access to parks and build and repair parks in underserved communities.
Oh,
So
this-
that's what we just talked about. And then it also says, right under that, initiatives. Prioritize funding projects that increase park access for low-income communities and communities of color in terms of proximity and the quantity of park space available per person. So this is where I got most of my ideas that we just talked about.
'cause that's
Right
fits with
here on page 122. So we have a figure indicating issues. We have it as a goal and an initiative that follows right behind it. So then the next thing I was looking at was page 131, table 5. That's
But
the
before you go,
okay.
so this would link to what you just did in number 1, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
good. That's what I thought.
It's like
Yeah, this is the action. This is
it's
the action that
post
comes out.
fodder.
Yeah, this is the action that would come out of it.
Post what?
Okay,
Fodder, like it adds to the.
Yeah.
Okay, supporting.
okay.
Yes.
Supporting material.
Okay, so then page 131, table 5, we're in the priority initiatives, and this is like the detailed several pages of them. And so I just wanted to highlight 2 things and see what we think. about elevating these in our strategic plan. The first is the third one down, provide accessible features in play areas. It is a high priority and it is ongoing. And so we have notes, provide ADA compatible play equipment, access to play features and surfacing where feasible. Everything's always, of course, where feasible. Cost to be determined per project. So I've been on the park board since February, and I've been at every meeting, and I don't recall. Not that this didn't happen. I just don't remember hearing about a specific playground overhaul that was at accessible, an accessible playground overhaul. That's what I'm trying to say. So, I would like to elevate this high priority, previously designated high priority, in the following way. The main way would be that we receive, as a park board, like specific reports on the accessible features that are added in new or renovated play areas.
That's okay.
Again, maybe I just am in a zone of time in my service where that's not occurred, or maybe it's happening in the background and I'm not aware of it. But I would like to ask us to elevate this, and I already brought it up in the master plan for Big Willow. But rather than me bringing it up every single time we have a playground or a master plan that already has a playground, that it's like, well, look, it's a high priority. So it should be integrated into the new plan for the renovation of a smaller playground or the renovation of a master planned playground segment, play area segment. So curious what you guys think about actually giving that the priority it was designated at in the post.
A question, and you're right, we haven't reviewed a playground yet because we haven't had one come up that's going through renovation. Is that correct, probably? Are you still working on that now?
Yeah, so we had 2 scheduled for renovation this year. They just got kind of bogged down in the details, so they don't have anything for this year. So we were going to do Sunrise and Groveland, so that will get done in the spring. We can bring that to you, and then each year we have 2 playgrounds that are scheduled for renovation each year in this capital improvement plan. So, as part of that, in the work plan in Q3,
Yep.
there's an item for trails and
Trail maintenance plan and park investment plan updates.
So that's where, the park investment plan, we include, the playground replacements, so we could give a little more information on what's planned on those.
And the 2 that are upcoming, they're being planned with ADA compatible equipment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I sort of understood it was the ADA compliant was standard, and so that's why we don't talk about it here, that you incorporate it every time you do a playground. We could do better than ADA compliant, we never talk about that, but.
Right.
But I mean, wood chips. How is wood chips as a surface in a playground ADA compliant?
But are you using wood chips in the new redesigns?
Yes.
You are?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
my park was done a year ago, and it was like
Wood chips are by the
Accessible board.
playground NRPA standards. Wood chips are an accessible surface. So, I mean, but there's different, but then you're back to your levels, right? But wood chips are an accessible surface. Now, we do have poured rubber and different, at places where there's handicap swings or different, components, but, we did a very large poured rubber area at Meadow Park when we did that renovation. So, I mean, it's just balancing funds, and if we need to increase that, it can be $40,000 to $80,000 to put in a large amount of the poured rubber surface, which,
So your trade-off
and
is
that's
fewer
about the
park-
price
fewer
of the
parks
equipment.
needs renovated then.
Right, so it's picking, okay, and is it every park, is it a mini park, is it the community parks, what is a fit for spending that money?
Do we have data on, I suppose the people who would benefit from it most, depending on where they live, and how to allocate resources to parks that way? Because I'm wondering if we know people who have disabilities who would benefit from a certain park over the other.
I mean, for instance, we're about to be reporting the surveying results from Big Willow, and there's a lot of comments about the playgrounds and are they, up to snuff in terms of accessibility or what the public's generally expecting. And if you look through the results of the post plan, you can see particular comments on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough for each park. What's the appropriate amount?
And then that population always changes, right? There could be a
Yeah.
handicapped child right by this park, and they're
Mhm.
10. Well, in a couple of years, they're not of that age to be at a playground, so then they're 0, or
Yeah.
or somebody might move into another one, or so that population is always changing. So it's trying to balance out the long term of where do you
Spreading them out.
put that money at.
Yeah.
Well, I would just add, though, that accessible features, to me, when I think of accessible features, I think of, some sort of structure that an individual who has mobility challenges can enjoy and access. And so so that can look a lot of different ways. But I guess I want to challenge us to say, should we make this rather than just meeting ADA requirements, because that's not what this priority says. It says provide accessible features in play areas. And that can mean that you have to get rid of the wood chips, because if you have an accessible feature, you got to pour the rubber. You have to have a way to access it, and you can't access it on your motorized wheelchair or your manual powered wheelchair through over a curb and over wood chips to get to the unique swing, or to get to the other fully accessible feature. So I think it's more than, again, because I've not been able to do this with you all, I do have a bias or a perception. I'm just going to make it plain that we could do better going forward. And the only ways I can even talk about that is as a parent of young kids who goes to parks all the time. And I think to myself, my children can go wherever in this park and do whatever, but I know there are a lot of children who cannot, and so this park is effectively not their park. And so that's a bummer. So what do you guys think about trying to, I guess, elevate our review and elevate the review that we do, not necessarily the same extent of master plan, which is 3 or 4 iterations, but instead of, here's the plan, approve it or don't at this meeting, maybe we do have a bit more of a chance to kind of iterate, work together, or even better, that the default upgrade, the default upgrade plan, or the default of a new play space is a fully accessible design. And then we maybe say, well, we have to move away from that because of cost.
Yeah, I think
But
that-
I'd rather
that's
have
kinda
us
my-
say, as a default, we want our work to be fully inclusive and accessible.
What is
And
that?
if we have to back away from that, then we.
What's your definition of that? like a Glen Lake school, Glen Lake Elementary School playground, or a rubber floor? I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we do have examples. The one you're describing, there's one I've been to again with my own children in Edina. Those are like kind of great lauded examples of fully accessible, fully inclusive play spaces with multiple features that are fully.
I'm just asking, is that, well, first of all, one thought would be, because we haven't, in my time, I don't think we reviewed kind of a renovated, not a new park, but a renovated neighborhood park. What does it look like? What's your
Process.
well, not just the
Default.
process, but what's the output? What's it going? So, because like if it's got wood chips, do we have a point of view on that? Or if it's it would be useful, to, at least to me, to understand what that looks like, because it is a high priority. It sounds like we're operating like it's a high priority within the dollars we have, but maybe there's a difference of opinion or understanding of what a accessible feature in an ADA compliant park is, or playground is like. You don't think wood chips work. He's going by a rule book that wood chips do work. So maybe it's worth just understanding as a starting point, kind of what does a renovated park look like for us, especially given what we currently have in the budget stream. Because you're working within a constraints.
Generally, so looking at starting out at the park as a whole, so we're doing the parks that were renovated with the 2001 referendum, right? So they were completely rebuilt. If there was maybe a parking lot put in, or the concrete perimeters around them, what we call them, the tanks, were built. So we're not looking at changing those. It's more or less replacing the equipment that's in each one, that those are aging out. So it's replacing the playground equipment that's in each of those tanks. So we're not generally looking at changing trails, changing parking lots on a big scale. It's it's confined into those spaces. And then we generally always have replacing the wood chips that are there. Most of the equipment has transfer platforms, so they're not, somebody can get from a wheelchair onto the play equipment, have transfer platforms to get around on the equipment, not necessarily that every equipment has a wheelchair path on the equipment. Or when you say fully accessible, like we don't have any wheelchair merry-go-rounds or wheelchair swings. So is that, if you want fully accessible, does that mean we put those in all the parks? Or because then if you'd have, that's beyond the scope of what we would kind of be planning on replacing. Or you would take away a merry-go-round conventional one and replace it with something that's wheelchaired or whatever. And then there's always ground access play features that you can access from the ground and interact with, whether it's music or just things that you can manually manipulate, from a chair, that you don't have to be on the equipment for.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that this is a high priority, but it's something that we look at when we do the master planning. And then when we do look at the structures, I don't know how much the park board has gotten into those details, but perhaps when we're getting quotes to include in the RFP various levels, so that we can compare and contrast the trade-offs for the cost value to do something like replacing the wood chips or making it fully accessible, modified, 50% accessible, the standard's 25. So just looking at some possible solutions. I'm not sure I'm on board with making this a whole different category, because I think there's so much work we need to do that I feel like it's more tangible and we can move forward with it if we look at it when we do the master plan and when we are spending the CIP money, asking for various levels in the RFP from not the consultants, but the consultants, right? Service, delivery, whatever. So that would be my 2 cents.
Well, but don't we miss a lot of, I mean, we would miss a lot of playgrounds if we only did this kind of more intense.
But the reality is, we can only do 2 playgrounds a year anyways.
Yeah, well, so it doesn't seem that big of a deal to do exactly what you were just mentioning about like, we have 3 different RFPs. One is all-inclusive, one is 50%, and one is what we're doing now.
Are the dollars budgeted years in advance of the implementation
Yeah.
of the
Yeah,
project?
and I would say the RFP would include those 3 options. It wouldn't be 3 separate RFPs, but that could start as a basis for us to look at and understand the trade-offs and the cost benefit analysis for the various levels.
That's, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe we look at when we, and I know you don't want it to be reactive, but maybe it's when we get to those points that we include those components to take those decisions into consideration. So I don't know, I guess I'm not a big proponent of it being an action item to our work plan that we're discussing today, but I am fully supportive of maybe doing more of an enhance than what was done in the past. Perhaps not even knowing if they looked at and got cost estimates for various plans and various costs to each of the different layouts of the play structure and subsurface.
Karen?
So when I do these replacements, since we're working in a confined space, we're generally just looking to replace the equipment with what is pretty similar to the amount of features that we had before. So in order to put as much money into the equipment, we don't do get a consultant. We don't hire a consultant to do a playground design and then we send it all out, because then we're spending $20,000 on design that we're taking away from the equipment. So generally we work with a playground vendor. You know, we work with generally 3 that we've had based on price and maintenance. You know, there's some playground equipment we've had in the past that have been lower cost on the front end, but much higher costs on the back end. So we, you know, try to pick a supplier that we use that we know we're going to get good equipment that's not going to break and have a lot of maintenance. So the vendor will I usually ask for 2 different concepts for what they propose for equipment that will fit in the space, something that's new, but we're not taking away a lot of features. Like if it had 2 slides before, we try to keep 2 slides. If it had this climbing apparatus or X number of climbing apparatus or X number of ground features, is kind of keep it same, but we just change what we can in that space to have a new experience for the kids. So. But that's certain we can, you know, with each vendor can give us some, you know, a couple different concepts for things we can accomplish from the equipment.
Yeah, I was wondering if the vendors, if maybe this is such a common thing that every vendor, every company that this is their jam, if they're like, yeah, we got a fully accessible version we can send you, we've got, you know, and we've got variations, or do we need a different vendor? Right? Do we need vendors whose specific focus is fully accessible?
They all
fully
have that ability.
Okay,
Yep,
perfect.
They all have the equipment. You know, so it's ramps and space. So generally, our limiting factor is the size of the existing area that we have to fit something in. So
just a question from go
You're
ahead.
probably going to ask what I'm going to ask, so you ask.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of the logistics of how this all works, because you're working already. The we just did is through this year or next year? It funded this year or next
say
year?
that again.
CIP dollars funded 2026 already, or?
Both.
Okay,
yep.
so anything, if we wanted to spend big bucks, it would be in the next year's CIP for start in 2027. That's what I'm trying to understand.
If you want to change any dollar amounts, depending on how much that is, the finance, we have our 5-year plan, and they've got the money allocated already. So we would give a pretty big heartburn if we say in 2028 we had $100,000 planned, because we already have our 5 years out. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
Okay, it's 5 years.
If we all of a sudden we say, okay, in 2028, we want to do 200,000, and that's only 3 years, that would.
So here's where I was
hit me
headed.
with a
Where
hammer.
I was headed
But,
is,
you
where I
know,
was
So
headed
it's a matter of
was-
what the fund can accommodate for what we've already have planned. So if there's something bigger, a big change that we might have to say, okay, this playground is a really high priority, we might have to move it back a few years just so the funding can catch up to that one, and we'll fit a different playground that maybe doesn't need a dramatic increase in funding that can fit in that spot.
So let me just finish my thought. What I was trying to get at is, let's suppose right now, no real numbers, let's suppose right now when you do a playground, it's 50 grand. And that's kind of what's baked into all of our financials, is 50 grand per however many parks each year, 2 parks, I guess. And we go out and we get from a vendor or a provider that we really trust and like, we go, hey, we want to expand our scope. Here, you've been giving us the 50 grand option. We want to see the 100 and 150, whatever. We want to see the super enhanced options and see what they look like, how are they better, and what do they cost. So then we could decide, going forward, we should really try to put together plans that support a higher level of investment in the remodeling, because we kind of have an idea what that looks like, and then we can try to build it into the future flow of finances. You follow me? This isn't something that's going to happen now,
Right.
but at least we get an understanding of how that would work and what it might cost.
Possibly.
Or to your point earlier, we'd have to do fewer parks each year to fund each park the way we want to.
Right. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. Maybe it's worth bringing to you, the 2 parks that are planned for next year. I don't know which ones they are, but we say, here's what's there. Yeah, so Orchard Park and Wilson Park are scheduled for 2026.
Wilson is my park.
You better do a good job on that park.
Yep. So we have $200,000 scheduled for those 2 parks.
Okay.
So it might be, we could look at each of the next 5 years and say, okay, these are the Wilson and Orchard next year, and Covington and Woodgate in 27, Boulder Creek and Norway in 28, Spring Hill and Westwood in 29, and Elmwood Strand and Civic Center in 2030. So maybe we look at, get your feedback on those, what they look like now, and we say, okay, here's the location, here's the neighborhood, it's a mini park, it's a neighborhood park. Maybe we get your wish list of what are the things we should prioritize for this particular park, and that steers us to what we get back from vendors, or
Are the designs done already for the 26
No.
ones? Oh, okay.
No.
I assumed they were. Okay.
no. It's done, just because we don't have a big blank slate to play from, right?
But
So
but your
we're-
funding's in place.
The funding is in place, and the space is already decided, so there's not a whole lot that we can really do on a grand scale. Is about the only thing that changes a whole lot is maybe the surfacing, and maybe a couple smaller things that you would fit into the space that's already there.
So Darren, if I could ask, so basically what you're referring to is the park investment plan.
Correct.
And we have that as one of the action items is to get an update on the park investment plan. We had it scheduled for quarter three, which is July through September. I'm wondering if that's something we could do earlier, because that's a good way to help them understand, here's the park investment plan, this is how we schedule these reinvestment opportunities, and have that discussion about what is the level of service that we're accomplishing here. Are there potential changes for level of service that we want to be looking at? And that's the kind of thing that I think the park board is really well suited to have that discussion. The reason why you don't necessarily see, individual playground equipment and what's being chosen at the park board is because those are really operational decisions that we make at a staff level. Whereas the board, the intent is that you're working at more of that high level policy level. So I'm just thinking that might be an opportunity to help them understand, like, A, what's the plan, what's coming up, how do you, decide which park you're focusing on. And then that gives them an opportunity to kind of have some of that discussion as well, and maybe move it up earlier in the work plan.
Sure.
Which, if you're
Does
okay
that
with,
work?
we can
Yep.
certainly do that.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and my idea is high level. It's to say that as a default, or we should know what it costs. We should have that as the default. We should be able to investigate what it means to back away from that. But then in the future, as we're budgeting, we say, no, let's budget for fully inclusive play space. And then we're not, well, there are ramifications, of course. But we're trying to build a 21st century park system and play spaces, and that it has to include, like our vision statement, an inclusive system. So I think we've got it on the plan. So I'll just leave it there, I guess. The next thing is further down on table 5, conduct an ADA accessibility audit to identify and address compliance issues. It was given a medium priority in the post plan, and I would like us to consider elevating it to high priority and to have that audit occur as part of our work plan in 2026.
It's kind of linked to what we were just saying, right?
Well, not necessarily,
But
because
I
it's
don't know
not
what
just
an ADA
play
accessibility
areas. It's not
audit
just
is.
play areas.
It's everything?
Yes.
I don't know what it looks like.
It costs $30,000 to $60,000. Is that in the budget?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. So that's one thing to take into consideration. That would be hiring a consultant to do that audit. That's not something we can do in-house
So
necessarily.
that would be something, this is actually why I was asking earlier about when do we look at revising or readdressing priorities?
Yep.
Because this seems like one that we could, if there's a process for that, we could, to Kayla's point, kick that up to a high priority. It still needs to go through next year's CIP funding?
Yep.
Is that how that works?
Yep.
So we do a CIP request
Yep.
in 6 months or 8 months when we get to
Yeah.
2027 CIP, and then the city council would approve or disapprove,
Yeah.
and then it could be a 2027 audit,
Yes.
funded audit.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds fine.
So
So we
do
can
we- do-
I can defer that till our CIP discussion.
Well, no, what I want to know is, how do we move can we move the priority sitting here now to say it's a high, or how do we do that?
Well, Darren wants to.
We would first have to see, so 2027 is already set,
Okay.
right? So we already have money set, so it's a 5-year plan, so we have dollars set for the next 5 years. So we would have to, we'd have to work with finance to see if the fund can absorb putting in a $60,000 addition that they don't already have planned for. So
That would be in
Or you have to
2027.
stop something
in
else.
2027. So
Okay.
if we find out from finance that yes, we can absorb that we can add that into the CAP, looking at future fund balances and everything else, and yeah, we can do it. If it can fit with the dollar amounts that's already been set aside, then we
So-
would put it in.
So today, we could, as a park board, agree to see if we agree to move it to a high priority, and then you guys can see if you can get funding. We can't have it in the work plan because we don't know if there's funds to do it yet, but we could at least get it queued up as a high priority and indicate we really want to pursue it.
Yeah, and Dave, that might also mean that if it's elevated to a high priority, that there's more like grant hunting or like alternative
okay.
fund hunting
Sure.
that might be going on.
Good
I
idea.
don't know if that happens with staff if something is a high priority. So I like the idea of us deciding that we're going to move this to, or recommending that we move this to a high priority.
So from a procedure, Brad.
Caleb, I love your advocacy. I mean, you are amazing in your thoroughness, and I admire all of the comprehensive homework you've done. But I don't necessarily align to the process in which we rebalance, maybe not even balance, but don't necessarily align to all the other priorities that we're working on. And so I wouldn't agree to raising the priority in the ADA study unless I did a contextual study of what else is in the medium range here that I would like to increase. Maybe putting park flowers in the parks or something that I'd be very interested in. That's a medium range priority. Well, maybe that's something that I'd be interested in, but I don't think we should cherry pick the ADA issue without literally contextualizing the other ones that are in a different range, because we've already discussed the equity issues that you're very passionate about. But I think that's taking it too far.
Well, I would like to second that. Also on there is park safety and climate action, and so they're just different schools of thought. What is a higher priority than the other? That's anyone's opinion, right? You have to be able to quantify that with numbers and then also what people tend to believe. Because how many people are necessarily needing ADA accessibility issues versus, and you know, is there even an alternative to that? Do we have to pay $30,000 to $60,000? Can we conduct a survey or any other alternative form of information gathering, something a little more conservative that doesn't necessarily require so much of taxpayer money?
And context is really important, because context in the budget. Let me give you an example, Caleb. I come from a family of 5. One of my sisters has Down syndrome. I was her guardian for 45 years. My siblings and I together went in and bought a van that was an accessible van. But we didn't each buy a van that was an accessible van to carry my sister around to different places. That wasn't practical, it wasn't smart, and it wasn't cost effective. It's the same thing with all of these parks too. Not everyone is going to need to be at the level that's the highest level for the one handicapped child down the block versus the demographics of the area. So again, your advocacy is right on, but we have to stay in alignment with our goals and our budget.
Well, our vision is inclusive parks.
And
It's the second word
And we've
of
got-
our mission
and
or
that's
our
nailed
vision
down.
statement. And so, an
But
audit of
that's
the 80
vision. That's vision and that's strategy. That's different than tactics. There's a highly different system of looking at the tactics of saying to Darren, I want all the wood chips pulled up and let's put down soft rubber. That's tactics versus the vision of an equitable and inclusive park.
Park system.
And park system. So
You can't-
we have to differentiate between strategy and tactics. And I think you're conflating the two. And I think you're conflating them a lot.
Well, how do you achieve your goals and strategies and your vision
It's a balancing
without
act.
actual
It's a balancing act. That's our
tactical work?
job. We have to balance priorities. It's not going to be carte blanche all in one broad sweep. It just can't. It's just not practical. We don't have the money for it. So it's a balancing act, and that's the role of this body, is to be sensible in its balance.
I would also add, I appreciate your comments. I would also add that in my view, this is simply a piece, it's garnering a piece of information. It's helping inform us. Just like the previous item, we can't say how well we're doing without this audit. And I'd like to know how well we're doing. So that's why I was
But Brad-
recommending that we elevate it.
But Brad's right, and I appreciate him bringing that up. I mean, if you make the argument here, you could just easily make it on any item on here.
But it has to go with our mission and vision. Flowers are not a
But
strategic.
as an example,
on
Eric's point about park resilience strategies and the client, that's part of our mission and vision too. So,
But nobody's coming forth tonight and saying, let's elevate that.
well,
I'm having a discussion about what I'm interested in elevating, and it can be shot down. That's fine. And if somebody else wants to have a studied discussion about their issues, let's do it.
I feel like we're including the various components of our multi-interested citizens from the different areas that are underneath our umbrella. And I feel like that the ADA components are. I think we can ask for more information from proposals from the vendors. We can find out more layers about our stuff. So I think we can help address your concerns, but I'm comfortable with the action plan and that it covers those pieces. As far as a special project, you know, my thought before Brad spoke, and I appreciate your voice, is if we open up the ADA, are all of them up for negotiations? And I think that's just a different way of what you were kind of saying. And so that's what my concern is, because there are so many different special interest groups. I learned my second trip, or my second, not trip, but meeting, dog owners
They
are
won.
another
They won.
large special interest group that balancing protection, conservation, and use is common. So that's where I think it's great that we represent it. But I really feel like our action plan will encompass that, and I believe that you're going to represent it, the ADA and the handicap. And I think that not only you, but again, I think I've said it before, NRPA, MRPA, Minnesota Park and Recreation, TRs, there's people who have get degree, they're all supportive and behind you on this. It's finding the balance of the cost and the trade-off. So I'm supportive of approving the work plan and our goals and strategy.
You're okay with adding the evaluation of the areas of need?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one.
So I don't
Is
want
that
to.
the-
I don't
is
want
that the audit?
No, I don't want to
I
cut
just
you
wanna
off.
con-
No, I don't want to cut you off. I'm just saying, I hear what you're saying, and I feel comfortable that our action plan with that amendment is something I would support moving forward, because I think we're going to adequately address your needs, and I am a big fan of being innovative and cutting edge, and I think our citizens like that. And so we have to look at where and how it's done. I'm not sure I'm supportive of every single time, because I don't think we can afford it, and our citizens don't typically want to pay for that on everything. But that's what I'm representing.
Other board members have comments, questions? Yeah, Ann?
I'm going to speak in favor of, or in support of Jennifer's comment. I'm thinking about the fact that we have a limited footprint for play equipment, and if everything is handicapped accessible, then I think you have fewer
Things.
components, different components for everybody to play with, and that may not be the greatest. So I think another way, as a devil's advocate, another way to look at this is, rather than make all the playgrounds as accessible as they can be, from the kids' perspective, maybe it's better to have a couple playgrounds in different parts of the community so that they're accessible, handy to whoever needs them. I'm anticipating that a person in a wheelchair is going to be driven to the park. They're not going to be wheeling themselves to the park in most cases. So if it's a little bit further away, that may not be a huge thing. And that if we then pick a park that's got a bigger footprint, then we can, or a footprint that's easier to expand, we can make it very interesting with multiple play areas that are accessible, rather than being able to put in only one or two in a smaller park.
I would also like to add on, I took a short seminar on this years ago, but there was a point in American history and park development history when things were going the other way and things were going to become too accessible. And then all of a sudden you had parks with, very, absurd ramps that went up, 10 feet high for, students in wheelchairs. and all they had at the top was maybe a slide or something. And so the whole park was dedicated towards accessibility, and it kind of impeded the enjoyment of other kids. And so I think that the goal here is finding inclusivity for everyone. Of course, students who have disabilities and those who do not. And so I'm advocating for that, but also, doing it really on a case-by-case basis based on the needs of the people who go to parks, evaluating the traffic at parks, because obviously bigger parks are going to have more traffic, and maybe those are the ones that require more thorough analysis on account of people with disabilities. But applying this such a vast these vast goals for every park, is it sustainable? It's obviously going to cause the need for more budget and for more time to develop these changes to the parks. And then is it going to impede the enjoyment of students or kids who want to have more resources at the parks that maybe are a little more playful or a little more creative and not necessarily tailored to full accessibility. So it's a balancing act, I think.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
should we clarify, you spoke in favor of including an analysis, and I thought you meant the analysis of one of the circles.
The unserved
It
areas.
was the needs.
The
and that's
needs.
what it-
Yeah, page 40.
That is what I
Just so
was-
that everybody's clear.
Page 105.
Yeah, I think I was moving us towards a motion to approve, subject to or in addition to the needs, because I really felt like we had the other concerns covered, and we could ask for further updates and further information from the staff to address some of Caleb's concerns brought up today.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
Darren can give us an update about the parks, and that's not necessarily work. Actually, it's on the work plan. So do I hear there's a desire to have a motion around the work plan for approval with an amendment? And if so, what's that language?
And just to be clear, it would be a motion to approve the strategic plan
And the work plan.
and the work plan. 'cause
And the
it's one
changes to the work
document.
plan were, in quarter 3, the park investment plan would move to quarter 2.
You okay with that,
That was
Darren?
one.
So quarter 2, and then in quarter 2, and we can look at maybe moving it up even sooner than that, what we're calling a deeper dive into the areas of need.
Yep,
Yep.
And
page
just
105.
better
Okay.
understanding what
That's
those-
actually not a bad way to put it.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Can
Use
I,
that
can
word,
I just,
those words.
Can I just ask something
Yeah.
real quick before we tie everything up or vote? I sent everybody this toolkit, and I am just curious what you guys thought of it, because last meeting I was having a hard time articulating what I was kind of envisioning as a potential work idea for us, which is what this toolkit that I sent kind of illustrates what I was trying to get at. Okay, so it's a resource that we could craft for Minnetonka's unique parks and trail system, and with the goal that our own unique toolkit or process map would support staff and us, or future staff, future us's, by establishing a default inclusivity, accessibility focused approach to park planning and restoration. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that any of our final decisions are the default are at that level, but it would mean that we get, at least as a default, that inclusivity and accessibility focused approach. So I'm curious what you thought of it, including I was thinking page 16 and on, there's the actual numbered recommendations, and I'll just let you know, and then I'm curious what you guys thought. That I was thinking more about number 1, which was listed as from page 16. I'll just read it real quick because you may not have it in front of you. I'll just read the bold. That number 1, we would consider requiring accessibility analysis of every upgrade or new development at the start of the project. Number 3 was another one, engage disability communities and disability consultants with lived experience. I have lived experience in this realm, but I don't want to be, as we go further down, the token person. I feel sometimes that I am, inclusive of this meeting, of this group. And then another cool one I thought of was number 5. They talked about like Google Street View, or a whole bunch of photos that people make photos and detailed information easy to access on a variety of platforms, where people with different mobility have, like, they can kind of see it. They can kind of see a little bit, like, what does this look like? What does this trail look like? And
You mean on the existing trail before they get there?
yeah,
Okay.
like, well, Street View, they mention, Google Street View, but also then they say, well, if you had like a good photo library that people would see online, and so that was kind of a cool one. And so these would just be kind of, if we wanted to create such a toolkit for our own unique, situation, those are some of the ones that I thought might be kind of that we don't already have, is what I'm trying to say. Like, we have a lot of these, which is phenomenal. The number 8, use signage to educate non-disabled. Like, oh yeah, okay. People don't know. We want to know. We want to be, sensitive, and so we say, oh, you can't have motor vehicles on this trail. Oh, but then there's signage that's helping me understand there's a reason that some of the folks using these trails or whatever are on them. So it's kind of like the tweak to, or creating a toolkit that might integrate some of these things that, again, serves as a reference process map. So I don't know if any of you think that would be worthwhile this next year, or what you thought of the toolkit that I gave as an example.
Comments, anyone?
Do you mind sending me that?
Jennifer?
Yeah.
I didn't get a good
Let's see.
chance to look at it with it, and I feel a little rushed to commit to that. And again, I'm trying to think about how we balance it. I think we can use various resources. I'm just not sure I'm ready to commit. My background, again, in Parks and Recreation is NRPA. And so I guess I don't know enough about this organization, and I don't want to add it as another requirement, but I think it's information to take into consideration is where I'm coming from.
I thought it was interesting and helpful to read. It seems to me that a lot of this was oriented towards people who are young and pretty strong and able to be outside, as opposed to a person who's 65 and in a wheelchair because they have MS. And so
Hand cycling and stuff, yeah.
so it's
Well, there's this picture, right? That could be that 60, maybe a 50-year-old.
Yeah,
blonde
that could be.
with MS, right?
Going to go 60 on
And die.
Go ahead, are you finished?
so if we were going to have a consultant write this for us, that would need to be budgeted for, and that would cost apparently $30,000 to $60,000, which is what all of the consultant things seem to be costing. And maybe we just read this and absorb it ourselves for now, rather than try to make a City of Minnetonka Parks version of this.
I appreciate you sending it out, and I think the particularly helped me the front end on some of the terminology. I thought that a lot of the elements where you are now, and my computer died, but I did go through it and had it open here, actually are incorporated in our post-plan process. I mean, our terminology is a little different in places, but I think an awful lot of these points are things we've done under different terms. So I'm less concerned about having to need this as a new toolkit. You know, there are some things like your example of if we had on the city website, you know, better pictorials of what they could expect when they get to the park. I'm a big personal fan of always kind of knowing what I'm going to see when I get there. But that's not a planning tool. That's just as Jennifer kind of said, hey, or Ann said, let's think about this and incorporate it in our thinking. So I think it's helpful to absorb and see how it would influence us. But I personally don't think I think a lot of the substantive tools are things we already did in the post plan. I don't know if you guys would agree from a perspective or not.
At a high level, yeah.
I agree with you, Dave. And again, this is a great, I thought it was actually quite good, Caleb, so thank you for sending it. And I do think that, you know, it was written from a perspective and through the lens of the Oregon advocacy and disability community, which is, you know, it was very well designed. But I think overall what it does is, again, it shows your commitment and this committee's commitment to inclusion. And I don't see the need also to sort of recreate the template, because I know you're going to keep us on the straight and narrow all the time. and that's something I respect, but I don't think we need to recreate what's already been done. But I liked it. I thought it was a good document.
Yeah, I thought it was really informative and helped me visualize some of the things that you've been communicating. I do think some of these recommendations, or some recommendations, should come out of an ADA audit, right? So after you do your audit, you figure out where the problems are, then the recommendations come out, and some of these sound like recommendations that would come out of an ADA audit. So hopefully if we get, something teed up in the future, I would hope to see some recommendations like this that are city-specific for us.
If we have a citywide ADA audit and there are things that are found to be not compliant, then those things that are found to be not compliant have to be fixed right away. And so we may have to spend money we weren't planning on. Certainly we want to be compliant, but we might be forced to spend things on that were less of a priority that we perceive, we and our friends who are disabled might not put as a high priority.
I often think about, I can't help but think about the other plans that we're working on, for instance, Big Willow Park Master Planning, and I grab onto the elements of a document like this, which is well put together, the detailing, the slopes on trails, the surfacing on trails. Those are all particulars that we can bake into the Big Willow Master Plan and the next master plans. We can pull elements out of this document and making sure that they're incorporated in documents that are just about to be adopted by the city. So there are elements in here that are easy to apply, and a lot of this is currently in our documents, but making sure it rises right to the surface and it's called out more appropriately. I feel like we're doing a lot of this already, and tooting our own horn where appropriate and realizing where we could go further. It could be happening in the current documents we're working on.
And I would be supportive of being innovative when we have an opportunity to do so. I think that is things that the citizens would appreciate, and we can tout and attract people because of our philosophy and our approach.
There was an element in this document, trail mapping. So we're looking at an interactive trail map and being more clear about where ADA accessibility issues lie in our park system. We certainly have a lot of funky slopes and areas of our trails that aren't ADA accessible. So to get to that point and then have to turn back must be a really negative experience for folks. So can we accommodate a better trail mapping system that allows our park system to be a destination for folks?
Great. So, do we want to venture a motion on approving the strategic plan and the work plan with, I think there were 2 changes, the timing of the park investment plan moving up a quarter, and then, do you want to try your language, Leslie?
Well, I called it a deeper dive into the areas of need from the post plan.
Okay, and that would be in Q2 or sooner?
Correct.
Great.
Do you want to specify the areas of need on page
105,
Figure
105.
45.
Figure.
just
yeah,
in case that language is in more than one place?
yeah.
Yep.
So
I-
I can move. I'll
Okay.
just say so moved to what you just said.
I second.
All right.
So we can call it.
Let me see. Okay. Christie,
Yes.
Hanley,
Yes?
Lehrman,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Samarsky,
Yes.
Chair Ingraham.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I was waiting for Eric, but I remember now. Well, Eric,
I know, I
okay,
feel so
good input,
bad.
though. Good input today.
Certainly are eligible for it.
So now we're on to 7C, Opus area improvements.
Thank
That is Matt.
So the Opus area has an interesting history in the city of Minnetonka. So back in the 70s, there was a vision for a mixed-use development, so a spot with higher density housing and commercial, sort of a business park. It was a bit of modern futurism, if you will. Since that time, that area, the city has changed quite a bit. Some big companies have moved out of that area, but there are a lot of new housing opportunities in that area, and with the light rail really changing the characteristic of that part of the city, we are looking to do some improvements. It was ahead of its time in terms of its trail layout and development. The planners of this original area of the city laid out a multimodal trail system amongst the houses. Nobody's allowed to complain about the one-way road system.
I was going to say, terrible road system.
There's lots of biking opportunities.
Yeah.
Those go in both directions.
Yeah.
So back in 2019, before I got to the city, we created an Opus area placemaking and urban design implementation guide. This looked to emphasize what makes Opus unique in terms of its placemaking, and we identified some lower hanging fruit in terms of enhancing that multimodal trail network through that area. That includes wayfinding and lighting, which I'll discuss briefly here. And then I'll get into an overall status of the park planning in the open space plan adjacent to the light rail. So Opus wayfinding, we are looking at a wayfinding signage suite with a variety of signs. There will be a sign hierarchy at key intersections throughout that trail network. This will allow for folks walking or biking to make quick decisions on major intersections of where they're trying to get to. Are you trying to get to the light rail? Are you trying to get towards 169 in Edina? You're trying to get to the business district on Shady Oak. So modern, clean, easy to read, accessible QR codes to online mapping available, and then modern materials selected for longevity. So we're working with a company called Whitney Vegas. They're a wayfinding company. It's a special consultancy. They do a lot of things like airport wayfinding, how you get around in terminals. So they've been helping us figure out how many signs, what types of signs, and how do you visually coordinate that. So we did some branding for the Opus area, sort of a placemaking style. What is distinct about Opus? It's really clear when you're in there that there's a sort of distinct nature to it. So have some city brand manual consistency while having this sort of unique logo of the Opus area, so you sort of know when you're in that area at a glance.
Matt, just a quick question.
Yes.
This is historical. Wasn't it originally designed to be the rings of the Olympics?
Yeah, so that was inspirational. There were
Yeah.
trail
Yeah.
loops and the street loops. So the names are Red Circle Drive, Green Circle Drive. But in the mapping, so this is that area. You really can't see that anymore. There were big loops that came through this area. It didn't really work out based on the.
But I like your logo.
Yeah.
Look, there, right there. The
Yep.
second one is an Olympic ring.
Yeah, so I look
I
forward
vote
to
for that one.
the Olympic Committee issuing a cease and desist.
I was going to say, you're going
sitting there.
I'll take the case.
Pro bono, right?
I love it.
We're doing that, the black one. So it's sort of evocative without being too on the nose. So we are currently detailing where the signs will go, how many we need of each type sign. We're looking to bid and fabricate these signs over the winter and early next spring, and they'll start to be rolled out next year. Yes, Ann?
Is this at a point where I can talk about signs specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So if a person are these where are these, some of these on the bike trail, on the paved trails?
They're all along the trails, so it's
Okay.
trail specific. They're not on the roads.
If you're in a wheelchair and you're on the trail, the ones that are 9 feet tall might not be very convenient.
The arrows.
Yeah, and the one that's at eye level to the 6 foot tall guy.
Yep, the larger sign one.
Yeah. So I don't know whether there are people who use wheelchairs who live there, but they might. And taking the light rail in a wheelchair is pretty convenient.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
let's just make sure everybody can see them.
Absolutely. I will bring that up to the consultant. Yes, the larger map sign is tall, and
And
would that
where
be
would
out of
those
vision?
go? They're so tall.
Some key areas. So generally
you were
they're
both
off
on the
the
far
trail
right.
a little bit. Yeah, and they're up on the platform near the light rail station and sort of at those key intersections. But they all need to be sighted, and what type of sign goes where is still being
So
determined.
the taller signs are anticipating like there's people in front of you, so it has to be high so that people can see them.
You need to step off the trail to see it. You're taking a close look,
Yeah.
like as if you're walking the trail system at a park or something like that.
Okay. But while we're on this one, just to help us all, because I think the light rail station is anticipated right there. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
And
Yep.
then will there be, I think I heard you say that there would be signs that would direct you to, if you're trying to get to the restaurants on Shady Oak Road, that you can see which direction to go.
Correct.
Okay.
So it is very labyrinth-like when
It
you're there.
is.
You lose track of when you're on the trail, am I still heading east or
Yes.
north, because they swerve. So having this sort of color coding, so orange would always point you out towards Shady Oak, or blue would point you towards the blue circle, that complex street.
And also signs that would point you towards the other regional trails.
Yes, so we've decided on some destinations. So
Okay.
the 9 Mile Creek Regional Trail in the northwest corner here would be a destination. We know it's always going to be there. We didn't point to United Health for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, things like that. So there are some major commercial hubs. So we'll say Shady Oak restaurants or something to that effect.
And major intersections
Yep.
too, and some
Hopkins
people
downtown.
yeah.
That sort of decision making about regional destinations. That
some
you,
people will be using their phones, and when I first ventured into Opus, these weren't a thing.
Yep.
And so you couldn't follow Google Maps or Apple,
Were you on your
whatever.
bike or what?
I was driving.
Oh, that's worse. Okay.
Yeah. It is worse. 'cause-
We all got
16-year-old.
lost in there.
My mom worked in there as a 16-year-old.
We
It
all
was
got lost.
quite frightening.
Just keep going to
I've still made it. Yeah, many
It's a
circles.
great place to test tires, though.
But
Early Saturday mornings.
I love the idea that that there's so much that's off road, because there are people who are afraid to ride on the road. So
Yep.
it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So making it easy at a glance, and we expect people, over time, to move there for the trail system, knowing that it's an exercise, multimodal transportation opportunity. So that visual language following through and being somewhat timeless. The next thing we're planning is trail lighting. So from a safety and access standpoint, we have a lot of cold dark nights in Minnesota, so lighting. We're doing a feasibility report. We're working with an engineer now to design the actual light standard itself, to cost those out, to figure out how far they need to be from one another based on a photometric analysis, where what lights, how they function, how much of the trail they end up lighting up, how far apart do they need to be spaced to accomplish that sense of safety without causing light pollution and some of those other concerns. We're also considering just material longevity of the lighting, and it ends up being a fairly expensive project, obviously. So we're in preliminary engineering at this point.
I heard a lecture about insect decline, and that lights at night are one of the factors, and recommending using yellow lights. I have no idea whether yellow lights are acceptable from a public safety standpoint, but that would be cool. Assuming they can be LED lights, I don't know.
The initial report from the engineering consultant will look at a variety of options, and we're asking for everything available in terms of reducing light pollution, reducing impacts to wildlife would be on their list too.
Could they pop on when somebody's approaching and then turn off?
We'll get some costs on solar for sure, but we haven't discussed that at this point. The concern is more equipment out there, more things that can fail, and balancing the lack of maintenance at times and making sure it lasts.
Yeah.
So most of our trails are not lit. I'm thinking about our whole trail system. Sidewalks are,
Yep.
not trails. So how are you prioritizing what you're going to light?
Well, we know, for instance, at Opus, there's a lot of tunnels, right? And we know areas around the light rail where there's more traffic and more concerns from a safety standpoint at times. So that's weighing into the decision making.
And these are almost more like sidewalks than trails.
Yeah.
There is an existing lighting system there now.
Yeah.
It's just very old wood poles. They went from this, they're kind of doing this. And the fixtures are old. It's a very old MnDOT lighting system. Does a 480 volt 2-wire thing that apparently doesn't get used anymore. So it's already lit, so that's what we're looking at. We're not picking one that we've never had lights before. It's replacing an existing lighting system primarily.
So the utilities exist already, or does that need to be redone?
Yeah, it's all old wire. It's direct bury, so back in the day they just plowed the wire in the ground, so if anything happened to it, you have to dig up the wire. Now everything is put in conduit, so if you have a bad wire, you can pull that old wire out, slide the new wire in, not have to dig it all up, and all that. Or even, like Matt mentioned, considering, looking at the feasibility of solar. Maybe we don't need any wiring, so we'll see how that all plays out.
Tough in our winters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be sustainable.
Technology has come a long way. So we'll see all those costs, and we'll assess based on the feasibility report.
Matt, will there be any safety sort of buttons anywhere, considering you said there's tunnels?
Yeah.
And questioning the safety of that because it's a big looping area.
Good point. We haven't talked about this in this particular lighting analysis, but we do work closely with our public safety folks. And
I don't know where that button goes to, and I look at the other. Maybe it goes to a 911. But I think it does provide some semblance of of people feeling a little more safe.
Yeah, we've heard that.
Right.
Like the blue.
They're blue or red, whatever.
Blue lights.
They,
University
you
of
can
Chicago.
hit a button if there's an emergency.
We've just got some comments on the Big Willow survey. I just saw that today, that folks asking about those or requesting them. So we generally defer to our public safety and police folks on those, but it's worth considering.
If you have to put in electricity anyway, maybe at least allow for it to be added.
Yep, absolutely.
I think for the next generation, safety is a really key component. Looking at our representative, what this is tied in to one of my questions is it looked like it was a Hennepin County joint project. Are they contributing any funding?
No, I mean they're involved with the features right around, well, not Hennepin County, but Met Council around the light rail, but no, Hennepin
Nothing
County
out
is
there.
not involved at all.
Okay, there was just, their logo was on one of the earlier slides on the plan.
Because the Shady Oak is a county
okay.
road.
Okay.
Oh,
So they'd be involved in the bike trails along there.
They were considered a partner during that Opus area
Okay.
planning document.
This
So
may
installation, but we have the
This
cost.
may sound too cynical, but is it ever done where signage is sponsored by some companies? You know, this you're going to head this way to go to have where the restaurants are, sponsored by Yum.
Yeah, yeah.
We all love Yum. I mean,
It hasn't come up before, but I mean, I see commercial partnerships in Minneapolis.
I do too. Yeah.
It
Not a
hasn't
bad
come up
idea
in
to
the
ask
past.
about, yeah, especially for some of those locations.
For the
signage-
signage that's going that direction, I think someone would maybe want to pay for that.
Scoreboard?
Right.
The signage is designed so that the elements are swappable
Mm-hmm.
relatively easily. New directions that we'd want to point or replacing signs that
Maybe
got
just-
vandalized.
Maybe a
so,
cost offset.
Yeah. So a bunch of lights everywhere. We're figuring out where they need to go, how far they need to go apart. So we're looking to bid again late winter, spring, and start to install these lights late next year. And finally, the Opus Public Space. So in 2023, we got a grant from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED, for $725,000 for land acquisition, pre-design, and design of a public space adjacent to the light rail stop. We've described it in that grant document as a linear plaza with a variety of public park amenities, traditional sort of public plaza type features. In late last year, September 23rd, the council approved that resolution authorizing the execution of that money. So we're starting to plan for using that money to design this parcel. So this is where a site, the building on that location now is called the Minneapolis Mart. So here's that site. Here's the light rail station right here. So a developer owns this whole parcel now. We are going to be performing pre-design to get ahead of what they're planning for this site. They don't really know what they're planning yet. We do know that they're going to owe us some land based on their redevelopment of this site. If they were to redevelop this site, they have to provide open space to the public. So we would get a portion of this land. We've seen previous. We would have to buy some. We would get some of it, but they would. But it would be worth more than they would owe us.
So
we
you're
would have to
not
buy.
talking about developing the whole area?
So we wouldn't get the whole area as a park.
Okay.
So for instance, these are renderings that we received from the developer last year. So here's the light rail station. They would develop on north and south. So here's the light rail station here. We would get some sort of linear park space in the middle of this parcel, and then they would redevelop the rest of it.
So everybody gets access to the lake.
That's the idea, yeah. There are a lot of aspects of this park design to be figured out. So we're in the high level, what we call pre-design or conceptual phase. So
How big is that space?
It's about 4 to 5 acres.
Okay.
The whole parcel.
No.
Our component. No, the whole parcel is
19.
19.85 acres. Our bit would be about a third of that. A
Where's
little less than a
Optum
third.
on that map, just to orient?
Way down over here,
Okay.
across 62.
Okay,
Shady Oaks.
Would they donate?
Yum is right over there on the left.
I'm going.
We should have a meeting there.
It's amazing how much development's gone in there.
Yes, and that this site in such a premium location is still sitting in this state.
Yeah.
The building is still used. It's a wholesale merchandise facility, so it's not open to the public. The developer's sort of waiting to see what happens with the light rail opening.
Huge
Yes.
amounts of parking.
Yep, and we've gotten versions of their concepts. Our goal now is to create our version of the concept to bring them back to the table to start talking through this land transfer and what our acquisition could look
And
like.
our public, or what do we call it, development group, what do we call it?
Community development?
Community development. They would have to approve anything they do, correct?
Yes, we're working very closely with them.
Good.
So how much of this is affordable housing? How much is, how many units? The
How tall?
typical planning, yeah, how tall? All those things that we need them to go through our process with. They'll have to come to the table when we're talking park as well.
Would their plan typically include a park as part of their portion? And are they looking to do a portion donated to the
So-
city? I
This
have
would be our
some.
park, though.
Yes.
Yeah, but I've just heard some feedbacks about people not really crazy about the Ridgedale Commons acquisition,
Oh.
and so I'm being sensitive to the feedback of people that I've heard, finding out if there's some compensating factors, the land dedication to the.
Yeah,
So
so
it's-
there's, and I'm not in the weeds too deeply on this, but we would get park dedication fees if the developer was to build out the site in a certain way that wasn't available for the public. How much money that is dependent on their development, what they're spending on it. And then the value of that land, what we would have to pay to buy our chunk versus what they would contribute in terms of park dedication fees. It's sort of all up in the air. It depends a lot on what they plan on developing. So Ridgedale Commons got a bunch of park dedication fees because of that, the two
Senior.
apartment buildings nearby.
The Redstone.
And it was a tough spot to use that park dedication fee nearby.
Okay.
The point of it is folks end up living there, have a public amenity nearby.
Right.
And it's often tough.
And I think one of the issues that public tends to react to is they think we paid for that out of property taxes.
Right.
And it's not.
It's park dedication fees
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah.
And that's good, because that's good information we can share and educate others with. That's kind of where I'm kind of want to make sure that we can communicate that
Yeah.
out.
And $725,000 from deed, state monies.
But that's for the design and the.
That's for design and land acquisition,
Yeah.
but it won't cover everything. It won't cover.
That would be
everything.
nice if it happens.
Yes.
When it happens, if it
When it
happens, whatever.
happens. When it happens.
So
It's kind of like the light rail.
what is land going for an acre in there?
We don't want to know.
We
It's
don't.
tough to say.
Okay.
It's a lot.
You get highest and best use, which really, commercial, it's the most expensive per acre.
There's some factors related to Boston Scientific and United Health leaving. There's big vacancies there. What does that mean for the potential development? I think that's why the developer is sort of waiting a little bit to see how that plays out. If they were to build a big new mixed-use office housing, what are the demands there without the light rail open yet? There's some question marks, and we're sort of in this holding pattern as well.
And are there any covenants on how the land is used as far as the redevelopment goes?
Just that if they were, for instance, if they were to build housing, there's a certain percentage of affordable housing that would be required, other planning requirements.
Okay.
Developers don't usually like any encumbrances or covenants on the land, so they can do what they want.
I've just heard secondhand that there were, when it was first developed, the person who sold the land had some requirements. I don't know whether that was a covenant or that was just a deal with that first
Developers.
developer.
Yeah, not sure. I haven't heard. So we are gonna go out for an RFQ to consultants to do planning for this space over the winter here. I have a lot of interest from the consultants in the area about this parcel and how exciting of an opportunity it is from a design standpoint. So we'll be hosting consultants and having them present their best ideas to us later this winter, and then use that to negotiate with the landowner about what they plan on doing with the site and how we can play a part in that and improving this area of the city for the folks that live there now and the folks that will be moving into the area and using the light rail to commute and for their quality of life in the future. So a lot happening. The idea is final public space master plan, so sort of that high level would be available late next year. So around this time next year, we'd have a high-level vision of a public space master plan, and hopefully at that point, a general sense of what the developer is planning.
This whole public space, big linear park, is that parking lot now?
It's mixed of half building, half parking lot.
Okay, so it's all impervious, pretty much?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
It's all impervious.
I noticed that looked like there was lots of concrete involved in that plan, and I would love it if there could be some permeable sections.
Absolutely. So I've talked to the Watershed District about opportunities here for demonstration. All our park design mission goals could be, focused in on at this park. How we're creating pollinator habitat, how are we getting people in a big urban plaza for food trucks.
And I know that grass isn't good for wheelchairs, so I'm not saying it should be all grass, but yeah.
That's the fun part. That's
Yeah.
the park design process. These images are from the original 2019 Opus planning document versus what the developer had sent more recently. So a couple iterations floating out there, but that's part of our process.
Hey, Matt, will the consultant presentations be to us or to staff? or-
Staff. So that's us selecting the consultant, essentially.
Mhm. Can we peek in? Can we be invited? Or is it not allowed?
I don't know. I'd
If we
have-
promise to be quiet.
That's a staff item.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never heard of any city leaders sitting in any meeting like that before.
Okay.
I'm happy to report back.
I mean, I think it'd be fun to hear these pitches.
It's the coolest part of my
I
job.
think it'd be very fun, yeah. So if it's an option,
Well, there are proposals. So they do have to send in
Yeah,
formal proposals, which technically are public documents.
that's true.
And I know we've released them in the past, usually after we secure a consultant, and then we'll release if people ask, because it's then finalized. But they are considered public documents, so the actual proposals could be shared as well.
Can you go back one slide, just for a second? Yeah, so is the light rail going through the park?
No,
Is
it's
that-
on the west side.
Okay,
of the
what's that
park.
going through the park? No, the other way.
This?
That thing, yeah, what's that?
So we know we have circulation, pick up and drop off around the light rail. We don't have it figured out, but we know we need some sort of additional
That's a new
street in
road?
there. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was looking for,
And
okay.
that's from our engineers in community development. This is very high level. We'll have to study that further. But we know there are significant issues around pickup and drop off around the light rail and the road network that you would force people to.
One way still?
Yeah.
Oh, great. What about, and so is the park, does that go through the park, or is the park just to the right of it?
It would be on both sides.
It is on both sides, okay.
In this concept. So
Okay.
this concept actually has a feature where there's like a landform that rises up, and when you're standing over here, the road's like underneath you, so you'd look out across.
Oh, okay.
So there are ways to sort of obscure that and
Just
not have
curious.
a road straight through the middle. If you think about the park adjacent to the Vikings Stadium and the way the light rail comes through there and how much space it takes up, I'd want to avoid that. There are challenges, of course, but
So going to Iconic, we
Iconic.
could put our bean here.
yeah.
We could put the bean.
The Minnetonka bean, yeah.
I like that idea.
Mini bean?
Or like a snowflake feet.
Yeah.
Giant cactus.
Or cattails.
That's called the Cloud Gate, by the way,
Yeah.
the actual sculpture.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
The bean?
Why is it called the bean?
Because it looks like a bean.
Of course it does. So why is it called Cloud Gate?
I don't know.
That's what
That's
the
the
artist,
Artist.
artist decided
Yeah.
that was its name.
Yeah, it's, okay. Moving right along.
I
Oh, Ann,
I
go
have a
ahead.
couple more. Okay, so if, I don't know if I would request that you put it in right away, but to assess how many people are bicycling to and from the light rail and maybe offer some more secure bike parking.
Absolutely.
Metro Transit used to have, and they've taken them all out, I don't know why, they had these little bike garages.
Yeah,
and
little
you
boxes.
could rent them for $75 a year, and it had a nice lock, and you just push your bike in there and close the door, and nobody can see it, and it feels pretty safe. I'm not sure they're needed, but one of my concerns about biking someplace and leaving my bike all day, my kind of expensive bike,
Yeah, you have a nice bike.
it's creepy.
Yeah.
So,
Through even this initial pre-design concept phase, we are going to be doing outreach to all especially the new folks that moved into this area, know the light rail's coming down the line. We're promising them a public space in the near future. What do they want in that space? And get a better sense of how many people are actually going to be bike commuting to the light rail.
Great.
okay. Yeah. I think I had something else, but I can't remember now, so I'll hit you later.
Sure. You know where to find me.
Is that it on the Opus? Any other questions, comments?
That's it. Questions, comments?
Great.
Thank you.
Be interesting. What's the timing, what's the latest thinking again on the thing actually running with people on it?
Late 27, I heard.
Late 27, okay.
They're testing it now.
Yeah.
Everybody laughs.
Thank you, Matt. Now we're on to number 8, reports from staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ingraham. We have one information item from staff, so I will turn it over to Darren to talk about Glen Lake hockey lights.
Yeah, what's in the report is pretty much what it is I have to say, but yeah, we have money in the CIP to replace the hockey lights at Glen Lake Elementary School. There's 2 rinks at that location, and the old wood poles, I call them spaghetti noodles, are now gone. The new concrete bases are in. We're finishing up the fabrication of the poles right now. The lights are in, so they'll be up and operational by the time kids are ready to skate.
Great, which is like tomorrow.
Right. It's looking like a really good skating season this year.
Yeah, potentially.
Potentially.
My grandsons will be happy. Thank you. Okay, upcoming meeting schedule.
Is there a report from park board members?
That's after upcoming meeting schedule.
Okay, never mind. So I will, if you can bring up the schedule. So we had 2 items that were originally scheduled for December. We're moving to January. So the Grays Bay Marina operations update and the 2025 athletic field summary will be in January. In February, there will be chair and vice chair appointments need to be made, so start thinking about that. And then also the Big Willow Master Plan and Cullen Nature Preserve Master Plans. We're scheduled to bring those back to you for additional, well, for Big Willow, would it be a full plan?
Yeah.
Full draft plan
Be
that
the
you guys
full
get
draft,
to see.
yeah.
And then the Cullen Nature Preserve is the final plan. And those we would be looking for Cullen, that would be a recommendation to go to the council for a final adoption.
Quick
The Big
question.
Willow.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask, how much in advance of our meeting do we get those plans so that we could have some time, like 3-4 days, maybe a week before, that we could look at them and so we can come prepared?
Yeah, I mean, they go out in the packet. Typically, we send the packet out, obviously, Friday morning.
Okay.
We could try to do it earlier if that would be helpful.
Well,
I'm
for
hearing.
instance, the Big Willow draft master plan will go out to the public for
That's
open
right.
comment and feedback. And that I like to have these meetings in the middle of that period. So it'll be out to the public 2 weeks before your meeting.
Yes, that reminds me. So it will be on Minnetonka Matters. It is actually on Minnetonka Matters. There's a project page. So if you go there, you'll see the updates and that final draft plan. So that's a good point.
Would it be possible for us to get an email with a link? It's sometimes a little hard to find things, although I'm getting better, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. You get in there and you have to really dig around sometimes.
Minnetonka Matters is really great for just adding your email, and you could add your park board email to just get a quick update. So whenever I update Minnetonka Matters, it blasts out to everybody that submitted their emails.
Oh, no matter what project? You don't have to do it project by project?
You do need to do it project by project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in March, we are scheduled to hear from the Three Rivers Park District on the Bryant Lake Trail, and then also having an update on natural resources, our division, our activities, and education and outreach work that we do. And then in May, so in April, we don't meet, and in May, we're scheduled for the Glen Lake Park Plan. So those are upcoming business items, subject to change. And then I'll turn it over to Sarah about upcoming activities.
Yeah, so this coming weekend, we actually have Light Up the Commons on Saturday at Ridgedale Commons. Sauna in the Park is ongoing. If you're interested in that, they fill up quick. So I would encourage you to try it. I've done it once. I'm going to do it in a couple weeks again. It's quite the experience to get in the lake when it's this cold, so give it a try. And then we've got our winter market, like our winter farmers market, which will be inside the community center on December 13th. And then the Yeti hunt, which we've had the last several winters, is kind of on your own time. Starts December 20th to January 4th. And that will be, I think, you start at the community center and take the boardwalk over to Jadana and do your hunting there.
I live in that neighborhood, and the kids in the neighborhood love that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
People love the
It's a
Yeti
treasure
hunt.
kind
Yeah.
of a thing, and they like those that are ready to.
Yeah, we get really positive feedback.
It's great.
Yeah, just a curiosity again. Three Rivers, Bryant, what's their timing they're thinking? How far is that?
27. at this
27,
point.
okay, thanks.
And 28, yeah. There's multiple phases. It's a ways out.
Okay.
Time is the light
Everything's 27.
So now we can go to Park Board member reports. Number 9. Anyone have any reports? Caleb.
I had the pleasure yesterday to go to the Cullen Nature Preserve with the Friends of Cullen Nature Preserve, and they were very friendly, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
They were very friendly friends, and we had a nice walkabout, and it was just awesome. It was lovely to see. It was lovely to see, like, you know, the degree of restoration that they've undertaken, because you have direct comparisons in like the owned segments, the homeowner segments, that demonstrate what it looked like before they did all this work. And it's just like the amount of like sweat equity that this crew and their friends have put into it was just awesome. And so I really appreciated that. We were able to walk a fair amount. You know, I mean, it was a little treacherous with the snow and all that, but I did my best. And we also were able to kind of like vision out some things, like vision out a more expansive accessibility trail than was originally designed, and we already talked about that in our first review. We also kind of had this vision of there's 2 marsh segments that the city owns, but they're not. It's not technically part of the Cullen Smith group or land, and so we thought, well, we have to make sure, or why not make sure they're integrated together in this full plan, as opposed to a master plan, and then we got these 2 marsh segments just exactly adjacent. We talked about Westwood Hills. So that park and how
In St. Louis Park?
in St. Louis
Okay,
Park, yeah. And so for people who've been there, there's a lot of similarities that I was kind of commenting on, because that runs along 394, and this will run along, or you have 494, but then they do some nice like board walking to a kind of a cross area where then you're back on land. So we were talking about that vision, and is there additional land space, either the MnDOT space or others that expand our loop, expand a loop potential for people, and get them even further into the marsh. So anyway, those were some of the highlights that we discussed, and it just remains a remarkable opportunity that I'm excited to see our final plan in a few months.
Anyone else? Well, I just would say, I want to just, again, welcome Eric on board. He made some nice contributions tonight, too, so, you raised the bar of expectations, so just keep it up. And I want to thank, I thought we had some really good discussion and dialogue tonight by all the board members, and I want to appreciate everyone's contributions. And with that, does anyone have another motion?
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
Who was it? Which one? I need-
Katie.
Katie, okay.
Katie got them first.
All right.
Great. We're adjourned.
All in favor, say
Aye.
Yeah.
That must have moved that.